an intro, a random intro. I don't know what's going on.
Welcome. Who knows? Let's dance, y'all. Oh, not this one.
No?
I'm just
They
kidding.
told us the oceans were walls of silence, deep, dark, and empty, a void without end. For 10,000 years we stood on the shoreline, turned our backs on the horizon, refused to pretend
that humanity never sailed, never dreamed, never wondered.
that cultures grew lonely like islands alone. But the gyres kept turning, the trade wind still calling,
And the old maps were written in salt and in stone.
oceans are artery, not walls between us, highways of courage where the brave always meet. From the first Paleolithic canoe on the water to the last star-guided raft crossing the deep, we are mariners, children of wind and of current. One single people who refuse to stay still. The silence is breaking, the dogma is falling. The earth has been speaking through every wave's thrill. Cedar fleas rounded the Cape long before Caesar followed the Canaries where the current runs west. Skin bolts of the north rode the same endless river that carried the Norse to the vineyards and rest.
Sweet potatoes spoke in the same tongue in two worlds. Chicken bones whispered of voyages done.
Pyramids rose where the same stars were watching. Serpents and feathers told tales of the sun. Oceans are arteries, not walls between us. Highways of courage where the brave always meet. From the first Paleolithic canoe on the water to the last star-guided raft crossing the deep, we are mariners, children of wind and of current. One single people who refuse to stay still. The silence is breaking, the dogma is falling. The earth has been speaking through every wave's thrill. They built empires of fury on never before us, called contact a crime against science's law. But maize crossed the water, tobacco left traces, jade mirrors remembered the faces they saw. Inside the Americas, rivers were highways, Indian roads were like a thread through the sky. When Socorro sailed east on its serpent rock promise, the ocean was never a question of why. No more false stories, no more convenient boy, no more manifest destiny that history employed. The past is not static, it flows like the tide, and every horizon was meant to be tried. We are not prisoners chained to our shoreline. We are the sailors the sea always knew. One human heartbeat that crossed every ocean, one ancient promise that still rings true. Oceans are arteries, not walls between us, highways of currents where the brave always meet. From the first Paleolithic canoe on the water to the last star-guided raft crossing the deep, we are mourners, children of wind and of current. One single people who refuse to stay still. The silence is broken, the old lie is falling, and the air sings again to every wave fills.
Oh, ah, da, 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 da. Oh, ah, da, 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 da. Oh, ah, da, 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 da. Oh.
Not bad, Invisible Ricardo. I don't think I've heard that one before. That took us to New Orleans there for a little jingle. Welcome,
very
everybody. It was. Everybody remembers Sarah. We've got the rest of the crew. Ricardo is still over in Europe for a short little time longer. and he overslept the mark. So I'm sure he's just jazzing up a shot of espresso or something for himself real quick. So we'll go around the horn. First, we will welcome back Miss Sarah Braley. So you guys at home know precisely what we're going to be doing here shortly is letting her sort of pick up where she left off. I'm going to take the opportunity to hand it over to Rick and Vince to catch us up on how they are and what they've been doing. And I'm going to go ahead and start getting the slide presentation pulled up.
Vince, please go first.
Vince, take over, because Vince, now I can give a little preface for Vincent. Vincent has had quite a week personally, and we're all just very glad to have him here around the table with us. And we got a bunch of love just wrapped around you there, Vincent. That being said, you also got some results from some officials that you've been trying to hold to task, and I'm sure we'd all like to hear that update, because it was well, take over, Vince, and
yeah, thank you.
There you go, dude.
I appreciate that. And
Yep.
and so the update from this week was from the Illinois State Historic Preservation Agency and Freedom of Information Act, the FOIA Act, that I had requested information about the Cahokia site called Monk's Mound. And they had initially said they were going to give this to me in a week. And that was about 2 months ago. Every week they have delayed it by a week and saying, hey, I'll get it to you next week. I'll get it to you next week. And they said, every time, would you accept delivery within the week? So this is like the 7th round of the week delays. And now they said, oh, we received 2,400 pages of material on this, but we can't provide it because it's too cumbersome and it's a burden to our resources. And so they said, if you would like to narrow down your request, then we might be able to accommodate it, or you could appeal this decision. And so,
and your request was simply for evidence of an authorization, right? I mean, you were looking for
this is a request for the evidence of why they decided to dig
and
up.
that was too burdensome a request. And how do you plan to then perhaps narrow it down for them?
Yeah,
isn't that their job?
Yeah, that's their job to provide this, and they called it an undue burden to provide the 2,400 pages that they received.
Vince, how dare you make them work? Shame on you.
Well, it's
almost
almost certainly all digitized, so there's no paper involved.
Right.
If everything's on the up and up, this is just a damn email. You know, that's all this is.
Clearly, it's a them
large
problem.
one, but yeah.
Well, I mean, precisely. It's an email from somebody to somebody, and somebody sends the digital form, and then they send it to Vincent. It's a FOIA request for an item that is supposed to have legally existed. So
right, and if they can't handle it, then they need to go to the proper authorities that can, which there's plenty of them.
Apparently, what is burdensome is the fact that they'd have to commit a crime to produce this document. So that's probably why.
Right, paper trail.
We can't make up a document, so it's burdensome.
Hey, it's worked for a lot of birth certificates. But
yeah, but if I understood correctly, their problem is there were a few thousand pages of material under what you requested.
Still, they have a team of people that you assign somebody this half, you assign somebody another part, and then you just work it out.
Yeah, even if they scan or send 100 pages at a time, I mean, that'd still be fine.
Is it really like that you're going to have to go through thousands of pages to find the actual archaeological authentication for the only major construction on Cahokia mounds? I mean, really? It's still just in paper somewhere?
Even that is assuming that it exists in the first place.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, is it really a dusty old bin? I don't know. I know guys that would know, so like chat, is that? Because I don't. I find that hard to believe.
Well, I mean, they said you can either narrow down this request or we would have to deny it as unduly burdened. And so I replied back. I said, look, I mean, I still want the data. Can you please give me a list of the information so I could narrow it down? What I'm most interested in is the scientific data, like if there was any carbon dating or the wood that they found in the mound. If they tested that, because they found a log, like a red cedar log, and they sawed it off. And they also found limestone slabs, charcoal. It was a charnel house they dug into. and I want to know if they tested it or had any scientific data from this excavation. And
How is that preserving it if they're literally ripping it apart?
right, they
Isn't
just
the whole point of
literally.
them doing this is to preserve it? You're gonna get me upset. Sorry.
Oh my gosh! Right.
No, go right
oh,
ahead. Express yourself. And Ricardo, check your Discord, please.
Well, I remember you said. I mean, the week that they were doing this, I mean, I was aware of it because the site management said we are really looking forward to doing this minor maintenance activity on the mound. And I drove by the site on the way to work and saw them with backhoes and tearing up this mound. I mean, they literally tore out 80,000 cubic feet from the side of this mound, and like I felt like I wanted to go up there and like chain myself to the mound to protect it, but I mean, I wasn't going to get arrested, and so the only thing I could do was
Tell me
take
when
pictures.
you're doing it, because I'll come with you.
So like I took pictures of it, and documented it and wrote letters about it, and I wrote letters to the Wotanjing Ikchi, the Native
That's
Lenape
amazing, Vince.
newsletter, and took a lot of pictures and documented it from a non-violent standpoint, right? Not getting arrested,
Right.
I took pictures of it all, and luckily,
Well, that's the whole point. Everybody has media now, so that's the evidence that you have the receipts.
yeah.
And they
Well,
can't
this
deny
event
that.
happened 30 years ago, but right at 30 years ago, right, Vince?
yeah, it was right around. It was 2007, so that's 20
Oh,
years
20
ago.
years ago. Sorry, 20 years ago.
Yeah, and I have the
Well into the modern digitized age, though, for the most part.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I have the files. I
And
put
we
on
talked about it at
Photobucket.
length on the Oopa Loopa Cafe,
That's
back when
right.
it was running.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully, once I get, I'm going to appeal this decision of unduly burden, and then hopefully we'll get the results, and they'll agree to then share the data, because it'll be interesting to see what they have.
Ricardo, you should
Well,
just
they'll also
go ahead, Rick.
they will also want you to pay for the copies if they have to run copies. So
Yeah,
ask them for an estimate.
Right.
Ricardo,
didn't
you
even
should
bring
go
that
in
up,
the
right, Vince?
editor and edit together all of the segments where Vince has talked about this, or get somebody access, and then Vince, you could just send them
Yeah,
all
Ricardo
these
needs more
segments
work to do.
so they know who's. Well, it's just an idea. Maybe I'll do it. I don't know, but point is, Vince is holding them to
I had
task
better
here
connection. That's right.
to the public. So, it's a thought. They may not be aware of precisely who they're dealing with, Vince, and you could, let them know that folks are actually paying attention.
Well, sometimes they are very.
Well, there's an
eager.
outfit that does like 485,000 FOIAs a year. It's a ridiculous number. Actually, they're a little more choosy than that, but they're usually very successful with them. And they work for donations. So we'll get with you after a while, Vince.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that.
It's true.
Hopefully,
It's very true.
hopefully they just agree to send this on data, like a digital transfer, and then I can go through it. And
But by the response you got this week, it tells me that they are looking to counsel for advice,
yeah,
or they wouldn't use that phrase.
right.
Well, it's certainly not this many times. I mean, they keep shutting them down essentially with this, and when you're just asking for information that is
Mike.
should be readily available. That's all. I mean, that's what I'm stuck on here. It should be readily available. So if it's burdensome, then there's something else to the story. That's all I know.
Yeah,
There is.
but it's Illinois, so they do make their own bureaucracy. Their bureaucracy is a self-fulfilling prophecy, by the way.
Yeah, well, who was it? The famous quote: "The purpose of the bureaucracy is to grow the bureaucracy," and I mean that says
is
it pretty
exactly
much
right.
there. So,
I'm sorry
but Vince
if I'm-
is trying his best to be a cog in the wheel of that bureaucracy, and we salute him for it.
Right.
That someone was saying in the chat. I can't deal with the chat because it's jumping up and down. I'm trying my best, but someone is saying that the site can protect itself. Well, sometimes when it's fairly remote and not very uh, hospitable, it works. But when the site is a site like this, it's open to the public, it doesn't. So
Yeah.
it reminds me of Skunk Hill, Powers Bluff. If there weren't Fred and Jermaine Pigeon fighting constantly to save it, there would be nothing left. So, and Rick was there very recently, so he knows what I'm talking about, and he
I
knows it very
was.
well.
Discovered a couple of new sighting lines.
So, yeah, it's an amazing place. It's. And did you had the maps from Jim?
No, actually, Chris and I and Joaquim went out in the woods just looking around, and I just happened upon a good sight line and put Chris in the sighting chair, and then I stood on the other side of the sighting rock, which is looking due west from the seat. So anyway, and nobody had ever, not even Jim had found that one before.
Man, yeah, according to the vegetation and the season, there's always something coming up and others going down. So, unfortunately, when I was there, I never went behind the ridge because I was lucky enough to spend an hour or an hour and a half that I was there with Jim and Diane. But there wasn't time for me to explore anything. But it looked an amazing, and there's much more than just the parking lot to watch. There's lots of things to see
absolutely. It's there are effigies and burials and marker trees and just everywhere up on that ridge. And supposedly Tecumseh is there someplace, but I don't know exact whereabouts.
Oh, that one I know because the singing Indian, is that what you're talking about? Well, they say it's the Tecumseh brother because he has a closed eye. So they think
that's the one.
Yeah,
they call him the prophet.
Yeah, looking over.
Which eye? I'm just curious. Sorry. Which eye is closed?
I believe it was his right eye. But and I can never remember his real name. They called him the prophet because he predicted solar eclipses and various astronomical things that don't have to be a prophet. You just have to keep track.
Gary Meyer, which is the author of books like this one, he has a very interesting theory about iconography with the closed eye, because he found lots of these species with images with people with one eye closed. In this case, it's particular because that fellow really had one eye that didn't see. But he thinks that when we see this in the native iconography, that it represents both the seen and the unseen world. So it's someone that stands on. It's able to be in the two places at the same time. So it's life and death together, which is also interesting, and he writes extensively about it. I think even his presentation, last one that I was fortunate to watch at his home, this preparation for the presentation, had lots of it. So it's another aspect of this mythology or history, whatever you want to call it. Mix the two.
If I can address the comment about the mounds will take care of themselves, it's not always true either. And I'll give you one particular example that
it's definitely not
witnessed recently.
When you've got a whole population that doesn't give a shit.
Well, yeah, that too. But also you have deliberate obfuscation of some sites. In this case, I'm talking about a petroglyph site in Ohio that Jim Shears remembers being there 40 odd years ago when he spotted an animal figure on the rock that he thought resembled a horse, but the archaeologist said, no, that's a female moose. This is in southern Ohio, by the way. And there was a hoof print underneath the horse. The horse that was a horse print, not a moose print, and visited that same place last week. And they have built a shelter over the petroglyph site and built part of the foundation of said shelter over that part of the petroglyph. So it is completely hidden from view now. So is that protecting it? No, it's protecting us from seeing such things that they don't want us to see.
You're talking about that enormous site that has this slate of rocks on the floor, that it's all filled with iconography.
Yes, this one's called Leo Petroglyphs. It's in southern Ohio.
Yeah. The one that I saw, I think
It's actually got five different sites within the park, about a mile walk.
Yeah, that's the same thing. Yeah.
But the biggest one though is it has part of the scene is hidden deliberately, like concreted over, not concreted, but set stone and brick over it.
Yeah, there's a building. There's a building there, right? It's they put it inside the building. Yeah.
Yeah,
I wonder if that missing eye
part of the petroglyph. Go ahead, sir.
No, go ahead, Rick. You were talking.
No, they built the foundation over that part of the petroglyphs and left the rest of it open where you could see it, and people still carve on it and crap. But it just amazes me. Sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
I was just going back to the missing eye. I wonder if that has anything. Obviously, I'm going to link it with Horus. We see that throughout history. Something, like there was a missing something body part. Obviously, the eye matters, right? Because you're looking and interpreting the world with that.
That's the new one.
Interesting.
That's the new one that you tried the other day.
Trying to keep up with the chat. They're talking too fast.
Is it still? Yeah, it's still doing the. It's still doing the bobbing, right?
Yeah.
No, no.
Now it stopped. Now it isn't. Okay.
I'm not hearing it at all.
What are we hearing?
No, Rick. It's
I
the
hear
chat.
birds in my background.
Yeah, there is some echo or something, but.
No, everybody that's not presenting can press mute once we actually start.
It's just me trying to read the comments on the chat, and if the
Sure,
chat
you got to scroll
this,
up. Yeah, you got to scroll up. You can't look at the last two when it's doing that, man. You have to. So that's just the way you have to do it. Either that or pull it up on your phone. That's what I do.
Yeah, but then I cannot highlight them. That's what I'm reading them for.
I know you're trying to make everybody feel included, and that's good on you. But they understand if you can't, man. We know everybody in there. Why, Rue? Because you said SB was looking pretty, like the Mona Lisa, and that's a little flirtatious with some of my married crew up here. So I was asking if your wife was in the room, sir. That's what.
My husband's in my room, so.
There you go. So, no, Rue, I know it wasn't an insult. I'm just...
Rue, don't force these people to go to Australia.
Just taking care of my people, Rue. You and your temptations, He's an artist. He's sly, He could try to steal you away from your husband, and then your husband and I would both have to go hurt Rue, and he's elderly.
Nobody's stealing me away from my husband. That's a fact. I don't care how much money and how much Rue you got.
There you go.
It's not happening.
No, Rue is a much appreciated member of our audience, and we mess with him all the time. So yeah, that's there you go.
Okay,
no
so
Let's take it as a compliment.
Absolutely. Rue
who has a television running in the background?
Not I, but we can press mute as soon as we get going.
No, it's sometimes I'm hearing. I think it is a television. Oh, there it is.
So Vincent or you?
No. But I'll mute.
Yeah, It is you. So there is something playing. There is something playing in your house.
You're not wrong.
So it's okay. Once Sarah gets started presenting, everybody but her can mute. That's real easy to handle. I'm gonna go ahead and I know I just popped in. I didn't mean to interrupt anything if y'all are still chatting. Um, but I'll go ahead and pull up Sarah's slideshow. So if nothing else, when
Sure.
we are ready to move on, she can first do a little promo for what she's accomplishing with this conference. And now that I've said that, Sarah, let me get Adobe. There we go.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure what this is. Tom Rua.
Yeah,
See, now Adobe's in the
the
window.
sorry, I just saw the comment about the forever flame. It's technically not an eternal flame because there's a sorry, I don't mean to laugh at it, but there's a ranger that comes every morning and they have to light it. So it's not really technically an eternal. It's just the gases that are being emitted from that specific area.
Okay,
And
so. All right, guys, you're gonna have to report to me because I got to keep maximized. I can't see what you see, so just let me know if this is full screen and appropriate or not.
yeah, I think it's good enough.
You sure? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we're still seeing the menus. I'm not sure if you can put just the slide without the menus, but
I possibly wouldn't you know how, Guru?
well, first of all, just click the X on the top right because that message it's taking that little bit of space.
Yep.
And then you can click on the right menu. There's an arrow for you to.
Yep.
There we go.
Okay.
And keep in mind, folks, if you want to see this as big as your computer or whatever you're displaying is, just press F11. At least in most cases, it works. When it doesn't work, it's Alt F11 to have the screen in full screen mode.
Yeah, it's not that. Alt F. It's not that either.
I don't know what to tell you. No,
nothing because I think it looks fine. It looks good.
I think it looks good. Yeah.
It doesn't work, Jason, on that software. I'm talking about in the Network Explorer. So I don't know what model you're using.
Oh, I'm in Adobe.
Yeah, that's why the Adobe F11 doesn't work.
Got you. Okay. All right. Well, I think it looks, as long as Sarah is happy, because that's who is.
I can see it. Yeah.
Okay.
It looks good.
Perfect. Okay.
Go ahead,
so,
Sarah.
Yeah, go ahead, Sarah. Guys, if you were with us last week, Sarah got started. And of course, we didn't get very far. And also, she was unable to give us the presentation that she had designed for us. So, fortuitously, we now have that in front of you. And she's back to just carry on the way she kind of wanted to last week.
And I would love to put Sarah in the big screen at the bottom, but I don't think that they are giving me the chance to change the position of the modules.
Yeah, I don't think there's a way. You'd have to highlight, again, I'm not on your side of it, but if you highlighted her and then clicked the, share, but yeah, with me sharing, it's going to complicate what they let you
I
do.
wouldn't be able to see it. Well, not that I really need it because it's, I know
your only option is you could put just the slideshow on the screen.
This is fine.
Those are
everybody together.
So I'm not trying to make myself bigger than everybody else. It's just I don't have a choice.
You're not.
Yeah, I don't see you like that. Everybody's together here, so
yeah,
we're all equals.
But you can absolutely at any point just cut us all out, and just if the slides are important, you can make that decision too, Sarah. Just
No, everybody can be on it. This is great.
Cool. As long as you're comfortable and ready to roll.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
So okay, this is the lineup. This is the lineup for Set in Stone Megalithic Conference on August 8th. This is in Putnam County at Veterans Memorial Park in Carmel, New York. I would really urge people to start rolling in at 10 o'clock in the morning because we're going to promptly start at 11 a.m. Evan Pritchard is the first speaker, and from there it's just going to be like back to back with everyone going at their presentations. At some point during, I am prepared for people that aren't going to show up to the event speaker wise. So in that event, it will be not a big deal. We'll just keep rolling with the flow, and it is a public park, so I would like everybody to just hang out and do whatever they want, respectively. So if they don't want to watch the speakers, they can go outside and hang out with other people that are like-minded and maybe not agree on everything, but talk and hang out and make a picnic, bring your lunch and lots of water or fluids in general, not alcohol. It's a non-alcoholic activity here. My friend Renee is going to be doing a sound bath at 1:00 after her lecture. That's something to check out. I'll have a kitty corner with coloring books, and I'm going to have a tent up so that they can, it's going to look like a chamber, and the inside of it, I'll make it I'll have them go in with the UV light so they can try to find this mock highlight opal and stuff like that. And then they get a little certificate at the end saying that they're a little explorer. So it should be a really good time.
Nice.
There'll be an opportunity for people to meet the speakers personally we have 3 pavilions, so we have plenty of space. And so in that pavilion, I call it the hot seat, which is down here in the poster part, and there'll be a photo op session. There'll be a really nice poster or, a big backdrop of the King's Chamber. And so you can go in there and talk to them if you didn't, if you have questions and you didn't have an opportunity to talk to them inside the barn, which is where the speakers will be.
I recognize, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but one of those names jumps out at me, Sarah, because I believe Jim Vieira has just received a little bit of international attention because he's one of Graham Hancock's featured researchers, I guess.
Him and Glenn. Yes, Glenn actually, not to say anybody got there first, but Glenn has been working with Graham for a very, very long time. Yeah. And Glenn is in my area, obviously very, predominant figure when it comes down to archaeoastronomy. He kind of started that whole wave for our area. And they're both everybody on this lineup is very knowledgeable in their own way, in their niche, right? So I was really happy to see Jim give a shout out on Facebook earlier tonight about the conference, and that was really sweet of him.
But yeah, that's very impressive. That Graham Hancock.
That's Tammy. Tammy was able to help me get some of these people in the lineup. Jim, in particular, and so
and how much? Let's remind people how much for this.
It's free.
It's fucking free, y'all. It's free. There's no monetary here outside of, I'm sure, whatever, might be around for folks to purchase, outside of this thing. But this thing itself is some quality independent researchers put on by Miss Braley here, and it's free.
It's no short of feat, Sarah. So, and I'm extremely
impressed. Tammy did do a whole lot for me, and my friends, have been, on their own. I'm so blessed. My friend Nancy, Renee, and these are the people that are close to me when we're talking about this event. It's everybody kind of took it on as their own, and I really truly appreciate them from the bottom of my heart, because I obviously would not, I wouldn't be, I don't feel like this successful already. I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but I'm very blessed to have them by my side and to want to be a part of it. Like I said, take it on as their own and be very proud of it. So that makes me feel very, very good.
Bravo. And thank you.
My compliment was for everybody involved. But.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to highlight, because I just want them to know, give them a public shout out, because they really are amazing.
Yeah. Having organized a couple such events myself, you have my respect, because I know it's
nice. Oh, thanks, Rick. Well, it hasn't happened yet, so we'll find out, towards the end. And like I said to everybody, and I jokingly say this because, clearly I've learned a lot and I know exactly what to do for next year, but this is almost like a blind date, because I really don't know, aside from Eventbrite, which is this QR code that we see in the top right corner there in the slide. unless you get a ticket from, they're free, it's just a registration of anything. So unless you guys go on there, I really don't know who is coming and whatnot. And you can stay as long as you want. You can show up for 5 minutes. You can stay for the whole entire night, which is 7 o'clock, and roll out then. All are welcome.
Yeah,
and just be respectful.
And also some appreciation to the speakers, because we know that a lot of speakers today ask
right, and they're not getting paid for it, so that's
Right.
like even more appreciation. Like, you guys know, this stuff is, people are going to be expecting a paycheck or some sort of something. Like, at this point, like, this is my first event, so I didn't opt to do any vending, because that would have cost more money out of my pocket, and I didn't have it at that time. So obviously in next year's version of it, there will be availability, but a lot of these speakers want to sell their books, and I understand that, and it was a diss to them that I didn't have that option for them. I could say all day long, you go into the parking lot, I'll turn my back, you know what I mean? So, but the whole point of it is to be comfortable in a booth and sell it, after you're done lecturing, right? Like any other conference. So clearly there's, that on my end, mistakes that I had made that, to be fair, I didn't think my idea was going to kind of go to this extent. I just thought I was going to have it's not that I didn't think people weren't going to be interested in this subject. Clearly I know that people are interested in the same stuff that I'm into and that you guys are into, whatever. Right. So, but I really didn't think, it would be like this, for sure.
It's perfect. Trial by fire, right? You're getting, and here's what I've seen. I used to always say, when I was way back in the real world management, was you throw in the pool, see if things swim, right? And you're definitely got thrown in the pool towards the end here, it seems. But here's what I've noticed, Sarah, is you've got a support network around you that seems really solid. You've mentioned Tammy, but I've had other people, like, since I've been, we've been working with you, like friends of yours on Facebook, come find me, and then I see all their support they're giving you. So, like, really, you got quite a little support system.
Well, the institution, obviously you guys are amazing, and I really honestly respect you guys so much. Like, I can't say it enough, because it's not even just being around like-minded people, but I was on my own for so long, like I've said before, it's my fault that I separated myself like that. But it is nice to find a group of friends that we can all get together and talk about these things. So I really love you guys.
The feeling is mutual. So
Absolutely.
we couldn't do anything without people that do the hard work as you do, and has the knowledge and the expertise.
I love it.
Yes. Well, they used to say, if you do what you like, you won't work a day in your life.
Right.
But it's not
That's
exactly
this.
Yeah.
Right.
For me, it is. I can say that now.
Well,
I don't know.
It's when you're working on that, if you're joyous, then you're not counting the time. It's just, that's what they're trying to get across. But you're just like the rest of us, and we're happy to have you. That's all. I mean, we see similar stripes, right? And you said it well. So we thank you, but you're just, we recognize, you're doing like we all have been trying to do in our own little areas, in our own little ways, for some quite a long time,
Well,
and we're happy to have people that are younger and, prettier and interested in also spreading.
I'm only happy birthday, by the way. I totally not forgot, but I was like, I better mention it. You're not that much older than me.
Well, either way, we're
right behind you.
We're thrilled to have examples such as you and your support, and Tammy, who is hopefully getting into podcasting. We've been encouraging her to do that, and
Tammy's world, that's for sure.
There you go, exactly. She's got so much to show off, and she's already got all the material just in the things she does, So really happy to see that, and we're just happy to have you, and thanks for being a good example of an independent researcher, and hopefully together now we'll all encourage more people to come and go, oh well, shit, I've been working on stuff alone too,
Right.
Yeah.
So they no longer are independent researchers.
That's it. That's it, man. It's a support. It's
by
a
the way,
support
That's
mechanism.
an
Nothing else.
organization of independent researchers.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
It's
Right,
and
right.
we're all try to exude, I mean, Sarah, you've been hanging out in the Discord, and we all try to just sort of absorb each other's sort of friendly energy, and all sort of hang out and establish that along with, sharing our research and stuff, because it's very important, especially when you go to where you're supposed to go with this stuff and you get such extreme reactions, and you get such just extreme reactions, it's very important to have somewhere you feel like, well, hey, I can fucking talk to these people too, you know? Send them a
Right. But
picture
it's
of a
the peer
butterfly I
review
saw
and
today.
it's the criticism, you have to be critical and you need the criticism, right? So that part matters, and
That's important. That's
can only
important,
do that
but
so much with yourself.
there's several people in the audience that I'm speaking to outside of just here that I hope will eventually come talk to us, because I know they've got stories to tell. So I'm always hyping up how fun it is. But yeah, real work.
And
Okay, go ahead, Ricardo.
I just say that I've seen the other poster of the conference on Facebook, and that one has the chance to press share. This one doesn't. So
Interesting.
yeah, I I don't understand why, but I've seen it today. Exactly this one.
Weird.
I saw it today on Facebook, and
Maybe because so like I said, there's people that are taking this on as their own, and they're making their own AI versions of a poster, and they're doing their own thing, and maybe they have taken some of, like, maybe the one on the left or something like that, and then applied it somehow. But if it came from their page and they shared it to me or whatever, it wouldn't have been shareable then. I don't
no,
think.
it
I'm
was
not quite sure.
exactly like this one. So with
Hmm.
orange,
It was
and
on my page. It should be shareable.
I didn't have the button share. So
I'll have to look into that.
You could just screenshot it, Ricardo, and then post it on your Facebook. Yeah. Okay.
I'm playing with the show on screen. Tuk, 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 tuk. I'd like to see Sarah define the end goal of her research more. Easy to get her idea.
There's always something new. There's really nothing. Education. That's my end goal.
And yes, I mean, it's about spreading. The end goal is sharing the knowledge, at least in my book.
Right. It's forever changing, so it's not like there's really an end to it, really, necessarily.
Hopefully not.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
the end of
everything
knowledge.
ends,
That's the end of
so
curiosity,
I'm not
and
gonna.
the end
I'm not
of
gonna live forever. That's for
why
sure.
we're here. Well, this time.
Let's see. Are we doing it over again, or?
Well, I don't know. You're directing me.
We can go back. We can go by. If you keep flipping, I'll tell you when.
Sure. As like all I knew was this was a new one, so I was.
Yeah. So we kind of stopped here, I think. Yeah.
Cool.
So what I did was I wound up, organizing it better than what I had given you initially, and so I realized, obviously, there were certain spots that were like the legends that I had heard through my research, and then there was like the cosmology, aspects to certain sites that, so I kind of tried to differentiate those two so that it wasn't just like piled all together in one big presentation. So this section is the legends aspect of the research, like stuff that was like folklore-ish. You can go in. Yeah. So this is really interesting. I sent you guys most of you guys, I sent the links to this, and it's Squire and Cyrus Thomas, and Jason, you know of him, obviously, and Ricardo and Vince. What he did was he wound up looking through Squire's notes about mounds in, like, not even just like the Northeast, but just like any area that he covered. So these were amazing cross sections. When you look at these, people have to understand that they're not the when you're measuring them, they're not proper in the photo. So if you were to say like he drew a skeleton, or you'll see in the next few slides, that's not. And then anybody else that's doing the math with the numbers that he puts, you're like, oh my god, that's a giant. I'm not discounting giants, but I'm just saying, like, hypothetically speaking, it wouldn't necessarily, be the exact for that skeleton. He was just kind of blowing it up so people got the idea of like what was in there. But these are, if we were to classify them as mounds before what we see, how we see them today as open, this is exactly what I'm talking about. And we see this structure here. I mean, you could count. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 20, 21 lintel stones from the the entrance here all the way to this beehive chamber. That's enormous. And I'm assuming most of these wound up turning into burial mounds of sorts. But when we're looking even with the Viking rituals, when they're going through their sweat lodges, or the ritual itself, they are going through a process where they're crawling on their hands and knees, even the natives, to get to this beehive shape chamber and to finish off the ritual, right? And so I can't help but wonder if that was probably the case at one point. And then I'm not, we can only speculate as far as we see the notes. And this is the whole point. Like, we're displaying this so that people can come together and share their knowledge and put it into one big compilation, right? So we can find an answer. I just thought it was amazing.
This is amazing, Vincent. To make use of our roundtable, does Cyrus Thomas and this slide about mounds evoke anything from your well of knowledge?
Yes, absolutely. Cyrus Thomas was heavily involved in, well, all the Mount Pisgah excavations, even the rock river excavations in Rockford, Illinois, and so he was the cousin of James or John Emmert, and they wrote the book in 1894 about mound.
The drunken forger, right? If I remember all the
forger.
Okay, yeah,
right. So they were cousins, and they basically they said that a lot of things were forgeries from Mount Pisgah, or even from the Back Creek stone in Tennessee that they claimed was a forgery, but later on they said it was authentic, and then it's been debated.
Well, there's some stuff in their notes that claim to have iron Celt axes and stuff like that were in the mound. So then I see later on in some of the writings saying that they were planted there by colonists.
Yeah, they're a messy they're a messy story of used for fraud or not used for fraud, fired for being drunk, brought back to authenticate something, and then that was fraudulent. And it's just a very dirty story with those two. If I, that's my memory of it.
Yeah, archaeology. I think archaeology always argued with itself. Basically, it was kind of a popularity contest on whether it was fraudulent or not. I mean, I personally think that these things were not fraudulent, and anything they found in the mound that they called fraudulent, they had ulterior motives, like they didn't want anyone to know about it, or they wanted to keep it under wraps, and so that people wouldn't study it. And in fact, by calling it a fraud, they basically did a disservice to the ancestors that were buried there, and they lost a lot of value, and they shouldn't have. I mean, it was bad science, basically, scientific misconduct to do that without actual proof of evidence, and it was very damaging to basically to the ancestry and to natives and every ancient culture. I mean, these were burials; these were human burials that they excavated, and then they called it a fraud without evidence for it. So that's been really a problem in archaeology across the country, especially in America. And if you compare it to Europe, or
I bet back then, if you called it a fraud, Vincent, it was probably easier to get it into private hands.
Yeah.
Like, 100 years ago, dude. I mean, because that's how.
But it seems like such an oxymoron, because they grabbed the bodies out of these said areas and then It's like you have the body. So
Right.
Money.
These things were
yeah, but then just to lie and say that there was nothing there, that they meant nothing. It's like, well, then what
It's
about the
criminal.
body?
I mean, we'd call it
It
criminal.
is.
Yeah.
it's criminal
Strange.
scientific misconduct. It's really a major loss for science. And
Right. I mean, I was just calling it smart fiscal behavior, but it was absolutely criminal and immoral behavior, 100%.
But it's a common practice, as if you keep going back until the 18th, 19th century, they were grounding mummies in Egypt and selling the dust
Right.
as
Right.
medicinal properties. So,
But
Yeah, you just
the real problem with the way it is conducted in the United States is that it is a concerted effort to hide specific information.
yes.
And I'm not saying that off the cuff either. I've
No, you're
been
not.
looking into this for decades.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
wouldn't
there
that
was-
have justified them taking and moving natives out of their areas? You know what I mean? Like, wasn't that part of it?
Yeah.
That was part of it, stealing their land
Yeah.
and erasing their culture, which is, it's, and to say that the Europeans are better at it, well, yeah, they are. They're better at erasing culture. The English erased the Welsh, or they tried to.
Right.
So, yeah, it's
It was
a global
essentially
practice.
national policy, back then. The orders were sent out to erasure of any signs of culture, not even just what we might call advanced, but really culture. They didn't even want it practiced because of that. They needed a trail of tears to happen, and they needed
Yeah.
people to go away so we could westward ho,
So,
manifest destiny.
yeah, but that let's segue this back around to Sarah's chambers,
Please.
which have often been speculated as being origined by Irish monks. You want to go down that path for a minute?
sure.
Sure.
Please go ahead.
Irish monks, yeah.
Or
Well,
the
they had the same
elite
beehive
class of
structure.
druid priests, allegedly. So I did the math on that,
Yeah.
which does not make sense. It's not like 10 or 12 druid priests. We're talking about a clan of like 2,000 people. So even if you had a group of just one group coming here for all of just the Northeast, that would have assigned one person per chamber, and it would have taken them 15 years to do it. So that I have questions, when people want to assert that it was, just a druid class, or like even the monks, no offense to the monks. And when the evidence boils down to, at one point, somebody was not influencing, but inspiring one another, whether it was mutual, where they kind of came here. This is my theory, is that they came here and saw that they had the same exact structures that they have, and they were like, hey dude, I have the same thing over where I live. And but then they exchange their differences, and then they found a common ground, but they also found some relatable aspects. So that when we talk about even like Lansox Meadows or Lansox Moor, Ricardo, you and I talked about this the other night, then you can see why they were coming here, because they had a relationship, and the only way to have that relationship is to build trust and to have commonality in a way, right? So it makes sense that we're
And
seeing a
trade.
duality of cohabitation, not just one group of people. But we have to remember that since it was so long ago, it's a completely different culture. So if it was blended like the Celts, the Celtic culture, then that would make sense even on a global scale, that it would have been a global civilization, because they're doing the same exact thing.
Okay.
They're
So on that
ritualistically.
note, how far back do you think they went?
With these stone chambers in general,
Yes.
I personally
I know it's a real
would
tough question, and that's why I asked.
No, it's not really a tough question. So like my cutoff, for physical evidence would be about 10,000 years, because we have the Laurentide ice sheet. So people have to remember that in my area in particular, that it's been erased so many times, so that people are rebuilding over and over again, but the technology and the remembrance of it was still there. So I'm sure in a mound situation where we're going to be able to look at the evidence directly, we are going to see, OSL dating is historically incorrect. It's a great tool, but I mean, it has its flaws too, like anything else. And so I would like to obviously find some area that's not been touched at all, and then go from
Yeah.
there. But 10,000 years to maybe, since I am the
Right.
steward for the
So
West Athens
even
Hill
the
site, it's
coastline,
13,000 years. So we actually, so funny
yeah,
you brought
even
that
the
up. So,
coastline is vastly different than it used to be.
I just became the historical researcher and historian for the Zion Lutheran Church in Athens, New York, and they have a picture. And I've interviewed locals, so farmers, on this particular subject when it comes down to root cellars, because that's my goal is to find out where were the root cellars and how big were they, and how long ago do they, when did they build them, stuff like that, right? So we can compare the data. And according to the current president for this organization, they're the oldest congregation. They're having their 325th coming up in 2 years, and they have an enormous amount of data. When we're talking about geographic data, about old pictures, that were drawn and stuff like that. And so today we had a street festival, and I was going through the notes for the beers, which goes back to like the 1700s. And so I digress. My point is that there was a note in there
That's
about
not digressing. I didn't know there was a church that was 100 years older than our country. That's fucking wild.
well, the congregation, the church itself, had been rebuilt multiple times. So they were, you have to remember that they didn't have churches necessarily. They had meeting houses, so they were meeting in someone's
I didn't mean
home.
building, right? Just that there's
Right.
that's cool that there's a congregation.
Yeah,
claiming
Justice
that.
Faulkner,
Yeah.
and I can get into his backstory. He's an amazing figure, and I'm not. You guys know I'm not religious, but I have so much respect for this man. It's not even funny. But so this particular lot, this land, and you have a lot of churches are clearly built on Native American holy sites, if that's what you want to call them. They're like. So it would make sense that, and they had this nickname called the Beehive, and I automatically, when I first started talking to them, compared it to a beehive chamber in my mind, and I didn't want to, put any assumptions out there, and I waited, for them to talk about what it meant. And so when I was reading the book today, there's an individual that took, so he was the successor to Justice Faulkner, and he was buried were entombed underneath the church with this plaque on top of it, which is now removed from this tomb area and placed on the actual building. And so my point of it is that we have that burial there, but there is this small beehive-shaped structure to the left of their church on their lot. And they have documentations of it, and they have people that remember, other, through, the years talking about the structure, but nobody knew what it was. And I had spoken to a farmer in the area, and they have one in a neighboring town that was supposedly like 40 feet on the inside, like long. So that's not a little chamber, right? And we see them all over the place. So I did not expect that today. It was a nice little treat, but it's like, oh, that's like, oh, this guy, and then you want to come see where the guy's buried. Can you like definitively find out? And not to get morbid, but yeah, I'm willing to go and investigate and do that for them. And then they were like, but this beehive thing, and I'm like, dude, you got me on this, not like like on this journey with them, but I feel blessed, to figure this mystery out, because that's what it is right now. But they're going to be giving me pictures of this drawing, and I know the moment I see it, I can say whether it is a chamber or it's not. So it's really exciting.
Yes, it is. Shall we proceed, guys? Anything
Sure.
before I click on?
I'm just curious,
Go,
so that
Ricardo.
we understand the scale. Just go back to the previous slide.
See?
Okay, so because this is done in a very weird scale, I'm just
Right.
curious. I'm just curious if those stones are actually walkable. So you can go.
So yeah, it's hard to tell. That's why
Are those orthostats that has a pathway, a gallery, until a final chamber, or they are just pieces of stone
It
that
could be
are on the
one of two
base.
things, or three things actually. So these could be the roof slabs, the lintel stones for the roof, or the floor, or we could. And this is very, very rare, and I haven't seen it yet here necessarily in any archaeological, because they have the archaeological reports. They're just not public. They're like gray files. So this rendition in this photo or in this drawing here, this, if it is the other, it would be like in England how we see them vertical instead of horizontal. So I'm not sure I can really tell you. Either way, these are indicating some sort of like a stone, like a slab of sorts,
Hmm.
whether it's on the roof or the floor or vertically placed, like how you would see like a portal tomb even over by you. I'm not quite sure.
Because
Because
the
that's the
bee.
main difference that you see with ours and the ones that are in Europe is that we don't have vertical stones necessarily like this. We like large ones at least, where it's almost like a tomb, like a like a tomb, or like casket style.
Because when you talk about beehive, it comes to mind on this side of the pond what they call a tholos.
It's right
So
there.
Yes. Yep.
THOLOS. So and I've been in one that is on top of one of the hills of Sintra Mountain. It was actually Enrique, that Jason knows who I'm talking about, one-eyed giant. It was Enrique actually that took me there. So I've been going to that mountain for, I don't know, the best part of 15 years, and I have never seen it. So
Hmm.
it's like we can know a place very well and still don't know everything there is in it.
Right.
uh, and that reminds me, because it's a straight. I was looking for photographs of it. It's a straight orthostat structure. So you have orthostat creating a tunnel, right, and then it ends in this dome shaped like circular structure that I think is what you're calling more or less a beehive structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sarah, you'd like Enrique that he mentioned, One-Eyed Giant. You know, he does a lot of the work on Cyclopean walls, but I definitely see, potential little overlaps, in you guys' work. He's a great independent researcher as well. Okay, next slide.
Sure. And this one I put up because we don't really see like pyramidal shapes like this, so it was really interesting. And a lot of these are just like kind of like evidences of like the cross sections of what would be in the mounds. Clearly, like when I'm comparing them to the chambers, that's where I'm at with these slides.
Beehive.
This one was unique. There's a site where I live, not that far. It's about like 20 minutes away, and in the sketches they don't have any skeletons. It's just like landscape, and then you see these like odd shape. You would even the one in the middle kind of looks like a linga. Like with India. So like we're seeing similar structures or styles or whatever, but I couldn't really like these are I've never seen anything like this. And then we see like a palisade, on the inside, but essentially this was a mound. So this is all
Yeah.
excavated.
You guys know what a linga is? Is in India, it's a big rock, and it's an earth boner. I mean, really, is what it's supposed. It's like the god head, but like literally. No, it's sacred though, and they look
Right.
kind of like that, but they're usually like one stone. Yeah. Okay, next.
Well, I wanted to
Sure.
say that
Anybody? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, guys.
on that previous slide, if you go back one,
Sure,
where it
man.
has the pyramid shape inside the mound.
Here? Yeah.
Well, that one is very similar to a depiction in the Wallam, and they show the same type of thing. So the Wallam was a document that was controversial, but it was believed to be possibly Welsh or from the time of the 1400s or earlier, even. But they had that same type of depiction with a mound with a triangle or a pyramid in it in the Wallam. So It's interesting.
Yeah, and this
Thank
is
you,
the
Vincent.
that's the first one I've seen in North Carolina, actually. So that was really interesting.
And that one with the circle, like we talked about, that they oftentimes use the clan symbols. What they would put a circular
Right.
palisade around it, and each of those linga, I guess, or the stone structures could be their bed, or basically where they lived, and they would arrange the clan structure very similar to that, in all the way from Ontario to North Carolina. They had the similar type of setup for their clan and their village structure.
Very cool. I gotta quit I flip back so I can see y'all when you're talking, but then I gotta flip back to get back to my job.
This was like
Plate 40.
this is kind of what started it, because this is what I found in the archive, and since it was such a shoddy copy of it, I wanted to get what I just showed you guys to kind of elaborate a little bit on I find it's not I'm not surprised that the archives only show so much, and they're like, all right, here's a little bit, now you go off with this, you figure it out. I appreciate that, but it would have been nice if they would have shown, like, obviously the source of where this came from or anything like that. And so I was happy to put the two together.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That particular structure is very similar to what we were seeing in Garden Creek, and the Emmert and Thomas excavations often described a mound with a stone structure in the middle of it, very similar to that. They said
Yeah.
they would dig down into the middle of the stone structure, and they often found that's where they had the ceremonial vault that contained a lot of the artifacts and the clan symbols and figurines, and so that's an important depiction there.
And this is West Point, and Jason, you know this from Dave's interview, but this is just me highlighting all the platform mounds that I had found. There's 15 in particular. One of them is quite large, and when I first started researching West Point, one of my clues was that there was a chamber underneath Eisenhower Hall, and acoustically that was just like it just lit up a little bit, and I was like, I have to get to the bottom of this and find out why. Like, it's not really public, and if it is, like, can I get in there? Like, if I can, have permission to do so. So that's kind of how I got into being able to study at Jefferson Hall Special Archives for the latter half of the year last year, and but these are in writing called glacial depressions, which are the complete opposite of what we're seeing on the map. So that even further, the question was like, why are they lying about this? And clearly, like we had discussed before, is to erase that culture so that they could take it over without any problems, in quotes.
Right. Yeah, that's not a depression. I know that.
No, because they put their readouts on them, and like we talked about, like putting a readout on something, you have to put it on either earth, like man-made mound,
Right.
or some sort of a higher elevation of sorts, so that you could see what was coming at you. They were not depressions.
Well, and so that you could signal your cohort.
Right. Yeah, like a beacon.
Line of sight.
And
Yeah,
this is
oh,
go ahead.
sorry. I was
Go
going to
ahead.
say, didn't Rick, didn't you do some line of sight studies this week that you had determined?
Well, it was actually it was week before last. But yeah, we did a short experiment, daytime with the sun at my back. I used 2 mirrors to send a signal downstream towards the west with the sun at my back in the morning. So we sent it about a quarter mile. And it's just a demonstration of how easy it is to align the mirrors to do that.
That reminds me of the conversation we had, Ricardo, with the sound, though. Right?
Yeah, the sound requires a different setting, but
but with the water being transferred through the water to get to the island, the other side.
Yes, that is in the island of Lampedusa, and the site is Agar Queen. But Yeah, because the coolness of the water, if it is still, recompresses the
Right.
wave, so it doesn't lose volume. So this could be used across lakes or calm waters, right? And considering how many lakes there are in North America, it's still a possibility. So, but the system that Rick is talking about involves even the creation of a method of communication today that we think it was created by a certain individual, and most likely was something that the indigenous peoples were already using, if I understood uh, Rick's teachings.
Like a
And
visual Morse code.
uh,
Yes, it is. It's kind of like that, except that it only uses discrete flashes. But
Okay.
it's it's similar. It's similar to a system that was used by in ancient Rome, ancient Greece, ancient Carthage, but with North American languages all being syllabic rather than alphabetic. I'm talking about the written languages, by the way, and they did have it, no matter what a certain individual said from the Bureau of Ethnicity. Yes, they had written language, but they had so
Well,
many
count those
characters to
scrolls from
represent
the
each and
swamp.
every
I mean, for sure.
syllable. Yeah, it would take at least 100 different characters to relate their language as a written symbol. So they had a
Well, that's just
different
a
array,
bias
if
on the
you
other
will.
people.
Well, but the American systems, and I'm not talking about North American strictly, go back to the Olmec. The Olmec had writing systems, and they also had mirrors that they used to send signals. All the way up through the Aztecs, Montezuma knew that Cortez was coming because they sent signals.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I
North
do
American
know
Indians
from the
sent signals
DeSoto
too.
Chronicles, they talked about, especially around here, where there was a lot of mica, right? The real shiny stuff. It's like basically clear, but when it compounds, and it forms these little sheets, right? Well, not so little when there's a impact crater nearby. And the DeSoto Chronicles would say they didn't even really know what they were. They would just describe these big, silvery, reflective sheets of stuff, like kind of like metal, but shiny. And it was mica, and they didn't know what they used for. But what would you use that for if you were just carrying around a big old reflective sheet? I mean, that seems to me to sort of back this up, from at least firsthand
Right.
account perspective.
Hey, Rick, my mom grew up
Well,
in
yeah.
Beacon, and they have they're historical for their Mount Beacon and with the lights up the fire. So I'm
Yeah.
right on board with that.
Well, let's see, week before last, yeah, Chris and I drove past Pilot Mountain in North Carolina. We'd been there before, but this time we had to go into Greensboro. At any rate, Pilot Mountain had at least 5 different seats around the top of the peak that look in 5 different directions to observe for these signals. And
Wow.
I, today it's almost impossible to prove anything I'm saying because of the light pollution. Now you can do small scale experiments, and I can prove small scale real easily, but the large scale stuff is virtually impossible because of how many
There's not
street
you can
lights
do
and
like a
every other.
computer version of it where you can like eliminate that in like when we're calculating and like see what would happen from there.
Well, yeah, or I can just do the topography and go point to point and
Right.
say yes. Or on this hill you need another 30-foot tower, which I can show that happened a lot too. But
yeah,
so
well, the
go
software
ahead.
that Jim Shears, the software that Jim Shears use, although it's very old, it's very useful because it has
DeLorme,
it has you can click in I don't know how to say it, but in perfil
elevation mode, basically. Yeah, and it'll
elevation
give
mode,
you a topographic
and shows
representation of everything.
And shows the two places that are in the map, shows everything that is in the map, Mazin in this in a showing the elevation of the site, so it allows us to see if if which
if there's a clear
mound
line
or
of sight.
each peak could have a line of sight to the other, right? And
Right.
in the day, I don't
And if
know, but in the night, you could go so far away with those signals.
oh, absolutely. At night, on level ground, no hills, no nothing, you can do about 26 miles just
Wow.
at normal standing height. But if you have a little bit of elevation, you can go a truly long distance. Um, hand mirrors that are still supplied to fighter pilots, they are taught that they can send a signal through the air, bouncing sunlight, up to 40 miles with that to an elevated target, like an aircraft.
Very cool.
The Army, the U.S. Army, used heliography from the 1860s, late 1860s up to the 1910s to communicate from hilltop to hilltop. There was one experiment in Utah that went 84 miles in a single hop between two mountaintops. They had a whole network along the southern border when they were trying to catch Geronimo.
Damn.
Total length, I believe, was 418 miles one way, and they did a round trip in a little under 2.5 hours with almost 400 characters. So,
wow.
Yeah, it is a proven system from our side. Now I'm just trying to prove it from the native side. But that also means I have to learn to speak and write Ho-Chunk.
Thank you, Rick. Sarah, you ready?
Right. So this is where we see in the slide to the left, that's where Execution Hollow was. And then it says the old Provost ruins. So the in writing, if you saw this in the slide before this one, it's clearly a mound right there. So like I had said in a previous interview, is that when we have like fairy mounds or just mounds in general, we see that the roads are going all the way around them. They're not going through them. And from the road to this mound is a pathway of sorts, and it almost looks like there's like a door, like where the entrance would be in the middle there. And on the legend to the right here, we see everything's in lowercase, and clearly there's a capital D on the top of this mound. And I can't get into that right now, but I just thought it was interesting that we don't see that proper in the legend. And then
Right.
so this slide shows the ruins, and on paper what they're saying is that this building, which is like literally a small in comparison to the mound, is what filled this in for it to be a from a glacial depression to what it is now, which is the mound. So that was historically incorrect. Let's see. So this is a chamber at Gunjiwamp. It's called the Tomb Chamber. I was very lucky to interview a lady that was part of the Gunjiwamp Society, who in this photo to the left is a gentleman named Dr. Dodge, who conducted the excavation in the 1950s. And we see on the right-hand side that there's a quartz / mica door,
Those are
according
some
to
big
the records.
stones on the right.
Yeah,
Those
so
are
like my
big.
main argument is, to people that are saying that these are root cellars now, is to ask them, and Nira, I've done this with them, and they look like deer in headlights. I don't want to, make fun of them or anything, but excuse me, why are we seeing this huge slab in front of this root cellar? Why would we do that, right? And so the lady that I interviewed, who was there as a primary witness, said when they removed this door, they found she claims it's a bronze pot with ashes. So that kind of spiraled my research immediately when we're talking about, because that was the second artifact I had heard of that was found inside one of these structures. And I had obviously found one of my own. So the pieces started coming together that they're not root cellars, that they're obviously much, much more than that. And we really need to protect them, and we need to make this public to an extent where people can be educated and be protectors and not collectors, and really take it on, like we see, like people are very protective of these, are very, predatorial in a way. So
Right.
I would like to continue on with that research. If I had an end goal, as to Rue's question before, is to protect them, to protect these sites. That's initially, what the whole goal is.
Yeah, good catch there. Yeah, absolutely. I saw that too. But Rude says that to everybody. He's been saying that to me for a year, Sarah. So he's still saying it to me. Like, don't you worry about the point. I know what the point is. I'm getting there.
This is the first artifact that I had heard of, and it has a very interesting, story that I heard. The first one, the originals, the correct story is that a gentleman, I won't say his name, it's in the writing here, but he did an exploration field trip with the Boy Scouts that had property. They bought property very close by, so that the boys were able to camp in the summertime near these stone chambers, which is absolutely amazing. Like, I would, as a Girl Scout, I would have loved to have camped next to one of these chambers, and
No
so
doubt.
the little boy had found this. They're calling it a dagger, but clearly, in
Point.
archaeology, we
Yeah.
can see, the shape of this projectile point, and then we can date it from that, right? And so, but what
Yep.
Phil did was that he had it sent off to a lab, and according to the records on his end, is that it came back with Icelandic origins, and that it was about 10,000 years old from the isotopic analysis. So it's very
Oh shit.
interesting when we're talking
That's cool.
about, yeah, when we're talking about, cohabitation, and like even just like trading networks, and like, I said, like sharing, ritualistic, similarities, and just surviving, because we do see in the records of them, even during like the Little Ice Age, and 536, at one point maybe had been living in Greenland near some, Eskimos. And it's all obviously conjecture because nobody lived back then, but I don't think that even like the Norris accounts of being, around certain people here is, disinformation.
That is really interesting.
Yeah.
The
And it was as sharp as it was when it first was made, because it never really, unless you're using it and you have microware, it's not dull. It's
yeah,
extremely sharp.
it looks like it's very sharp. And
It was, 10 inches long, so it's not
wow,
little.
Yeah, I've got an obsidian scar, and I didn't
Yeah,
even.
you were
I was
saying.
just. It was raw obsidian, and I'd broken some, and just had a little piece that I was messing with, and man, it'll slice you right away.
Yeah, I started flint napping, so I've had my fair share of little cuts and bruises just from, napping.
Yeah.
So, you kind of, remember this balanced rock that I showed you in the last
Yeah,
interview, but
we all saw this
yeah,
the
and I
glacier
wasn't trying to
erratic.
rush, but we were already pressed for time, so I was kind of like, I felt bad. I was like talking over you guys, and like I was just trying to hurry it along so that we could finish. But obviously, the Laurentide ice sheet did not drop this off on these quartz points, because they're shaved to these shapes. And so,
Right.
what I recognized was in the middle part, this photo in the middle of the slide. This was a presentation that somebody had given at NERA. I've reached out to a few of them in higher ranking, not just members, and asked them where this presentation, like what year did they do it and who did it, and nobody was able to tell me. But I thought it was because when we come to this figure down here on the bottom left, the balanced rock, there's a lot of conjecture about whether it's a short-nosed bear, short-faced bear, a ram, a lion. I kind of lean towards Sekhmet in a way because it looked very similar. It's all up for grabs. But also in this diagram, or in this picture in the middle, we see a chieftain or maybe a shaman of sorts, and the top left is a petroglyph from the site called Wilderstein in Rhinebeck, and it's very famous. And it looks almost identical to this medallion shaped piece that we have here. And then I wanted to highlight the green point petroglyph over here on the right hand side. I was able to physically touch and see this artifact. The gentleman that has it in his possession found it in Catskill, New York, and it's almost mind-boggling when you think about it, because they were able to decide that it was an artifact, and B, that it was writing of sorts, or maybe a map. And the picture is almost a little false advertisement, because they're like this big. I was waiting when I first met him. I was waiting to have like a large item in my hand to look at, and he came up and he brought, and I only saw it from the right, from the bulletin, that it was one piece, but it's actually two, and they're so tiny, and
Like the size of
we had to get a
call it game
microscope out. It
pieces.
was so it was so little, and pour water on it so we can
Game
see the lines
pieces.
better. So it was a really amazing experience. So when people say they didn't have
Talk.
writing or they didn't have anything,
Talk is also good for that.
right?
But it's impressive. I never,
Yeah.
will never cease to be amazing the artistic capacity of North American glaciers, which is unlike anywhere else in the world.
It is. It's pretty wicked. carved that winged hair just perfectly, and the eyes and the nose,
Yeah.
and then the balancing is pretty impressive. I mean,
The time
I'm-
it
It's a
took.
60-ton glacial erratic, so it's not a
Yeah.
little boulder here. We're talking about 60
Yeah, but
tons.
it had to sculpt it, then it find the precise
it was
size,
rolling
3
along.
stones to put it on top.
in the release of the
There's
ice
more than
sheets,
3. You can't see from this. I'll show you a video. I'll send it to you.
it was
There's 3 in the
tumbling
front,
bumbling
and then
a
there's
lot.
2 in the back. So there's about 6 altogether, I think. Don't quote me on it. I have to count them, but I'll send you a video so you can get like a 360 view of it.
Cool.
And this is just like my personal, obviously interpretation on what I think it is.
Vince, Rick, any ideas?
Dolman. It's
Dolman.
Yeah, Dolman.
And like I had mentioned before, so in the 1980s, we had the Hudson Valley is famous for having UFO sightings and UFO activity, and there's been shows and movies made of it, and everybody wants to blame this rock. I can't really go from there. I said it before, but allegedly that's the case. And this was another glacial erratic that I found that looked kind of similar, a little bit more worn, obviously, but on the side of it, it looks like Egyptian stars. I know it's like a really crappy picture, but I thought that they looked pretty similar. So when we're looking at, like animalism, like Vince, we were talking about this earlier today, and you sent me some stuff. The natives had like, everything covered from like the stones, earth to animals to, inanimate objects, like wind and, water and whatnot. So I'm not surprised that they were going to be using everything.
And that's really interesting. I like your view of it. I mean, it's incredibly rich, and it looks exactly like you have shown. I mean, the faces that clear and everything. So, and it's interesting that, I mean, sometimes science doesn't acknowledge that, and it's like, well, you can type this into an AI program and it'll just say, this is not a phase. This is like just a rock that might have been deposited by a glacier or something. And it's like, but there's no way. I mean, that it's just, they can't comprehend that. I mean, there's, sacred face there. And it's clear, to anyone that looks at it.
I've said it before, if you're a pharaoh, I find it highly unlikely that you didn't come to America if you had the resources. Obviously we're not, we are a little bit different than our ancestors, clearly, whatever, category you want to put us in. But when we're talking about like,
I'll be right back,
communicating with each other, I don't think that it was that much different. I think people were still traveling and communicating and doing the same thing that we're doing today.
Well, Pharaoh Necho, he hired a seafaring nation group to go around Africa. At least that one is documented, and scientists and historians tend to believe it because they got the sun coming on the wrong side, because when you're coming down from Africa, you see the sunrise to the left, and when you're coming up on the other side, on the Atlantic, you see the sun coming from the right, and that is described on the journey. And
Well,
the only thing,
Hatshepsut, has even, records of her creating even like a navy and then a trading network. So she was famous for bringing them back from, economically back from the grave. She was, that's well documented. So I to cut them off at a certain area, I don't think that's
The
the
international
case.
wheat trade.
Right.
let's see if I can keep up with the chat.
I think Jason had to go somewhere. So you're ready to talk about false doors and portals, apparently.
Yeah. Because we see a lot of them, portal wise. Not, I'm classifying it as a false door, but only because of the way they are proper in the structure. So if we were to compare that to Egypt or another culture, it's usually on the right hand side, which is where we're seeing them. Portals, I would classify it more as portals because we see them. There's circular rocks that have like a window of sorts or a door to it. So you'll see in the pictures coming up.
You ready for
Sure.
me? Sorry for the I had to step away for 1 second. All right.
So this is an example. This is the first one that I noticed when I started like stepping back from, like my, because I'm into these chambers a lot clearly. And so I had to step back a little bit and look at the structure itself. And it jumped right out at me. And then when I realized out of 73, I've seen 3 of them that have this like exact same blueprint on the same side, same style. When we see the mini lintel stone, and then this plug, because it's about 3 feet long, so it's not like a little circle that they just put in there, circular stone. It's quite long. And so when I was talking,
I'm sorry, Sarah, but
no, go for it.
I have to comply here. So if it works, eventually it will work
What do you have to comply with?
with Sarah. I'm trying. Sarah.
Do you want me to stop sharing? Is that what you're trying to do? Take over?
Oh, maybe it's because of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's why I need to. There you go.
Let me see if it works now. That's it.
It's appropriate. I'm sitting here eating my beef and mash, and I've got a little sea shanty on, and it's we had boats, y'all. We had
I'm
boats.
sorry.
No, you had to. Universe Unveiled. We're always happy to support them, and of course, celebrate the fact that we had brains and boats. Okay, so let me go back to
portals. I'm sorry. It's
I love it.
If I could keep up with the chat, it would be. It was on time, but I can't because it's bouncing all over the place. So
we can go to the next one. So this is a close up of this area. Shout out to Tammy.
Tammy.
And we can see the lichen all over it. So that was
Sorry.
interesting.
No, sorry.
No, go for it. That's okay. I mean, you can stay as long as you want. Yep, that's the King's Chamber. You know it. You were in it.
Sorry, that's me. Teenagers running. You are emo. What?
So this is like the AI rendition of the site that I call the Guardian Chamber. We can go past this one here.
But I don't know.
This is the second one. The third one I can't show because it was on private property and they asked me not to display that. But we see the same exact area on the right-hand side, same concept where there's a lintel stone on top of it, and then the round stone to the bottom there. I'm curious to see what you Rick or Vince, what you would interpret this as.
Well, you mean other than it looks like a dinosaur head?
Well, Vince was saying it was a turtle's head, when we were getting into the animalism part
Okay,
of it,
well,
like
that's
the
close enough.
clans.
That's actually pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one that has like
Yeah.
a serpent's head on it.
I do
Not
find
in
it
the same
interesting,
area.
at least, that they're in the same, area of the chambers, and they would seem to
Yeah,
have some sort of
it's a
function.
blueprint. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that. There you go.
I'm just glad that there's a strong tree supporting that lentil, otherwise it would have fallen.
No, it's not. No, it's actually it's. I think it's the angle that I'm at. It's not
Yeah.
that close to it. It's far away. Things are a little jumbled. That's all right. This is in regards to the site. So in Gunjawamp, we talked about the tomb chamber, and there's also a few other chambers, and one in particular that has a room to the right hand side where this summer solstice comes through and shines into that room. That beehive shaped room has it's capped with a bluestone. So we see granite and then bluestone, and it's the only chamber out of 73 that I've seen like this. So this is what got my wheels turning about heart and brain coherence, because we see that bluestone affects your brain, alpha brain waves, and clearly it could affect at any part, piggybacking off of both of these, they could affect your body either way. But if we were to separate them, the bluestone would be for your brain, and then the heart would be the piezoelectric effects from the granite that are being emitted from the chambers. So that's what I kind of started this theory for. It's a work in progress because obviously I haven't been able to prove it physically,
Well, it's an area that it's very hard to put forward academically. So when I
Well, yeah,
when
you
I
would
did,
have to literally, you have to put the cap on in the middle of the woods, and I don't know anybody that has to find it. Well, I don't have anybody right now that can find
Right.
it. So I can't.
Yeah, you also have to find a new science. You have to invent a new science to present it to science.
yeah, well, they tried to do this in studies about the moon, the influence of the full moon, or the new moon, and so the first study that did it, that used young people from universities in the United States, they got remarkable results. Like 90% of the people got higher uh, mental capacity, higher physical capacity, higher regeneration capacity. But because the results were so good, there was immediate funding for two other separate groups to do the same testing, and they both destroy it completely, saying we found nothing. There is nothing that we can say that it's influenced by. So, which is strange, because basically they don't use the same systems, they don't test the same effort tests, they use completely different methodology, and then they are able to destroy what was previously said without actually repeating the experience. And that's what counts then academically. It's the second and not the first testing. So this is an area that is
Right.
complicated. Yeah.
It is, but I mean, it should be said. Of course, Sarah has had her own personal experience with this, but there's many factors of this that are already known to science. You mentioned the piezoelectricity, and already put forth by well-respected people, if ostracized, such as Nikola Tesla. I mean, these are
Right.
concepts we're familiar with in their parts, for sure. Oh, that's me. Next slide, producer. Sorry.
So these are this is just information for the colonial owners for Gunjawamp, and so my
Hold up.
point of putting this slide up, I know you guys are familiar with Nathaniel Adams, which would be in the middle. I want to focus on him the most, because when we're talking about root cellars and what these farms are producing in general, he had, they had to submit for tax purposes all the resources that they were using so that they could tax them on it. And So in the records, he's stating, in his own personal writing, that he's not able to produce anything, like no vegetables, no nothing. Like he couldn't even have any livestock because they had nothing to eat off the land because it was so rocky. So this is just another like backup for me proving that they're not root cellars. And this is the site that I was telling you about, where this is the summer solstice, and I pointed out before that there's an isosceles triangle on this lintel stone to the room that's to the right there, but then there's also a larger stone. When we were talking about upright stones, this one kind of stands out because we see the rest of them are horizontal and not vertical. So it's interesting.
I'm just surprised to see the floor filled with rocks. Right?
Those are leaves, actually, and
it's leaves?
Yeah, and so if they were to excavate on, some of them are on the ground itself, or bedrock, or they have, when I'm talking about levels, they have like slabs on the floor. It's kind of, I'm not going to dig, so it's kind of hard to make an assumption or even tell you that this didn't have the slabs that we were talking about before, or if it was just on ground.
Yeah, because the ones that I saw in here is either dirt that probably has bedrock underneath, or actually
right. Yeah, most of them do have dirt in them now. This is the bluestone, the room that's capped with the bluestone.
So this is where the light hits from the solstice, is that it?
It doesn't, so it's almost like a misrepresentation with me shining my light onto it. I was trying to highlight that it is a bluestone that's capped, and you can clearly see it's a different building material that they were using. The room itself, it would not light up like how you just flip on a light switch to a room. It would be just projected into that area. So I don't know what clearly there was a purpose for it, so that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, I think you did a great job, and it's really interesting to see that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it reminds me of the Mesa Verde and Chaco Canyon. There's sites all throughout the western and the western area that had similar type of technology, where they would look at where the sun would hit at the solstice. And so yeah, that's amazing.
Well, they had they manipulated the window in the back there to catch it a certain way. Obviously, they were very smart when they were building this. They knew exactly what angle to aim it to get it to go through that door to the that room, instead of the door that you're walking into, which is not that far away from it.
Like the sun dagger.
The sun dagger. Yeah, in Chaco Canyon is particularly, yes. Go ahead, Vince. That's what I was trying to go to.
Right. I think Anna Sofair was the one that discovered that, and I think it's amazing that you discovered this one as well. It's just that's really important.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent.
This slide is showing the biological and geological clocks that I'm trying to highlight and use as ammo, if you were to call it that. So we have the lycometry, the mineralogy, the hydrology, and dendrochronology. This is in the Ninham chamber, and so if I'm correct, I've had reached out to a few geologists to have their personal opinions on this material. It's a mineral buildup of something. Maybe flowstone formation, maybe the beginnings of stalactite. I'm not quite sure, but we're having a situation when we're talking about dating this particular buildup. We have some earth on top of the chamber, so for the water to get seep through that takes time. So if we're low bowling stuff, it would be about 300 years to get through, to break through to the roof slabs here. And then from there, that takes time to build these mineral buildups. So I'm not saying that just because that's there, that's how old the chamber is, but it clearly is showing that this is not a root cellar because it takes time for these minerals to build.
I don't suppose it has produced soda straws, what they call soda straws, as a stalactite.
Right. That's why I was asking for the professionals to come in so they can validate or just discredit it. Either one. I'll take either one.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I'll come back to that.
Move it forward.
All right. So this is just like a basic time frame for what I just told you guys about, like going through the soil and then the erosion process that it would take for, allegedly. And then this is a little bit of like mathematics to back that up. These are clearly lowballing and not accurate, but still something to get people inspired so that they could, like I said, like either prove or disprove me when I'm bringing this information forward.
Got it. Minimum age calculation 1,200, maximum 3,800. We've got black light.
Yeah. So I got curious and I wanted to bring the blacklight into this mix because in Mexico, these chambers are gorgeous. They have red ochre. They're very colorfully painted on the inside on top of plaster. And we see some sort of chinking in these chambers. So there's a set, I could segue into the Algonquin cement, but I did do a minor study of 3 different types of chinking that were, they just fell on the ground. So I picked them up and took them home. And I took them from various areas in the chamber. Tammy was with me. And vinegar seems to be a really good way to test a lot of stuff invasively. So I got 3 different results, which I wasn't expecting, maybe 2 at most, but all 3 of them reacted differently, and so clearly that could have been like where I got it from and whatnot. But this is a picture of the highlight opal that I found allegedly, and so I didn't find any writing. I was even scripture. I was looking forward to finding maybe something, because when we're talking about vandalism throughout the decades, we see that people have like, I was here, like something like that, and we don't really see petroglyphs or anything like that inside the chamber. So I didn't find anything but this highlight opal instead.
Nice.
Well, to be honest, you don't find them in Europe either. So inside the chambers, it's not very common to find
right.
any.
Well, I mean, on the outside, even like with the, when we're talking about spirals and stuff like that, we
Yes,
see
outside,
them.
yes.
Like it would be, to me, it's like the family clan that made that chamber. It was their chamber, so they're like, this is my symbol. That's what I was seeing in Europe when I saw them there, and I was not, I wouldn't, like I said, compare really necessarily because they're 2 different sites, right, geographically,
Sure.
but nothing really yet. So
Yeah, 2 different sites, but basically the same concept.
right, same foundational blueprint. You can go on to the next guy.
Guy? Did you just call me
It's
Guy?
fine. I'm from New York, so I call everything Guy. I'm guilty.
Listen, pal, you fucking forget about it if you're gonna go there.
Yeah, exactly. Come on now. This is this is a really cool slide of the lichen that I found. I noticed there was some drill marks inside this chamber in particular. So what I did was I started really analyzing it, getting some really good close-up shots of it, and really picking it apart and noticing that right where these drill marks are, they're wiped clean of all the lichen. So that to me was a timestamp of sorts to prove that was a newer manipulation from humans. Because and I would like to stress that I'm not saying that humans didn't build these. Clearly there was some sort of human aspect to this, right? So whether it was like megafauna that, and I'm not even going to go there, but humans did build them. It's just like how and when, that's the issue. But this is my study on the lichen.
Okay,
Yeah.
so go ahead, Ricardo.
I was just going to say this is not made by nature.
No.
No, no, no. But I do like the lichen dating here.
So as you can, and I'll just like zoom in if you're going to zoom into we'll focus on the right hand side of
Little
this
scoop.
slide. Yeah. You could see the drill. I mean, me personally, this is a carbine drill mark because you can see the markings on it. So that's a somewhat modern, we can even bring it back to like 1920s, 1930s of sorts. But a lot of people that were trying to claim them as root sellers are saying like, oh, well, because this mark is here that we see drill marks, that's fairly new. These are not ancient, so like I said, when we have the lichen involved, that to me, like I told you guys, it is a timestamp. So not to be confrontational, but my point is to now you can prove to me why we have lichen that's growing 80 inches or more, and then we see where these drill marks are. We don't see any of that. We don't see any growth whatsoever.
So the contention then is that that's modern drill marks because there are ancient drill
Right.
marks. I mean, known around the world, right?
Right. But this is not plug and feather, and this is not, I know quarries very well because, the West Athens Hill site is something, a site that I steward. So
Right.
I kind of like went down that road and learned as much as I could, even in Europe, like what they were using antler picks in Europe. And, when we talked about the arsenic and stuff like that, hardening, methods that they used for certain, whatever material they were using, mostly bone, clearly. But even fire cracking, the stones to break them away from, their natural, bedrock, locations. It's super, super rare that we see any of these stones with fire marks on them. And so I just saw that Ancient Aliens put out their episode on the stone chambers, and they clearly highlighted, and I'm not dogging anybody, but they clearly highlighted that it was like the elite class of the Druid priests that came over here and did all this stuff. But then they were claiming that they had seen or somewhere they didn't, nobody fact checks much when they put a movie out, but they claim that there was charcoal found inside of these chambers. By the way, I would have to say, out of 73, I've never seen any remains of any charcoal whatsoever. So I don't know what chamber that they were in. I don't think that they were lighting fires inside of them. Outside, yeah, possible. Inside, absolutely not. And when we talk about how dangerous that is, it's just probably not going to happen. Even during like my sweat
No,
lodge years, I would call it,
the
I don't
concentration
see
of
that.
CO2 would be too high.
Exactly. Right.
Would be
But
too
they
high.
were claiming that the charcoal bits were about 3,000 years old. And you know me, I'm on board with them being older. So it's not like I was going to really argue. But my point of it is like, okay, so where are these archaeological reports that you pulled this from? Because I have seen none. And I've done a lot of research into them. So I just, it's just a simple question. I was liking to know where they came from.
Yeah, and if you note the image on the left, you see that the stone is all more or less the same type of stone, or has the same type of markings
Right.
on it from your time. But if you go to the previous image, and that doesn't take any years of it. Jason, can you go to the previous image? Exactly here. So you see on the image on the left, those two more or less cubic stones doesn't seem equal to the rest. So I think that just like these drill marks, someone might have done some restoration process.
I'm not going to say physically impossible, but they would have had some sort of jack of sorts to hold
Wood.
the entire
They,
structure in place,
they
because
can
we're talking.
they can
Go
put
ahead.
they could put poles of wood, like tree trunks of certain thickness, to hold it while they took the pieces that are breaking and try to put new pieces in to stake it, and then they take the stakes out again. So it's not a complicated process.
I'm leaning towards these being original, honestly, because we're looking at them. What they're trying to do here, to me, is straighten it out to put a door or bar or something, like early, like later on. So
Yeah,
you
that
cannot
makes
put a
sense to
door
me.
on an uneven plane. So you need to straighten it out.
somebody, like you said, maybe in the 1900s even, or 1800s, wanted to use it functionally and wanted a door there.
And they
That
did.
makes
There's
sense. Yeah.
tons of people that have private properties with these on them that did that. And if they couldn't achieve that, what happened here, because clearly they stopped whatever project they started. What they did was they brick and mortared it. So that's why a lot of people, when they surface look at from the surface, they're like, oh, that's quite new.
Yeah, that's
And then they don't
more or
look
less
at
my
it
point. Yeah,
being later.
it doesn't deny their age. It's just they might have been
Right.
some work on them, especially
Manipulation. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I do like that picture there from the inside. It definitely sort
Yeah, it
of
was. I almost didn't put it up because it's a very weird angle.
I
I
like
think
it.
most people would really see it the way
transports
that I
me.
did.
It I don't know. It just evokes trips to caves I took when I was a kid or something. I don't know what it is
But
about
this
it,
is
but
the
it's
point of like what I
very
was
nice at
telling
putting me inside the
Ricardo.
chamber there.
Yeah, that this is them manipulating it, because clearly this is I would call this a foundational rock, of sorts, because or glacial erratic that was already there that they built around, which they did do a lot. There's a lot of stone chambers that have these massive stones that they built the chamber around. And so what they were doing here, I'm not quite sure, like I don't know what their building plan was, right? What they were trying to, manipulate
Right.
the site to use it for, but obviously this is when you walk into the chamber, it's midway through and then you're looking to the left. So it's not like it is on the outside of the doorway how we saw in the first few slides.
There is a very small village in a place called Monsanto here in Portugal, where you still find lots of houses that were built using this type of massive rocks and glacial erratics, and they use the rocks to create their own homes. So if
Right. I'm sure some of it was probably geothermal, like when we're talking about that aspect of it.
So it's not uncommon to do that, and that's a practice that probably has thousands and thousands of years. So
You can go into the next slide whenever you're ready. So we were talking about Mishu Pishu, and which is the horned serpent dragon / lynx. He's got like a million titles. The Cherokee, actually, Vince, you probably know this, and Rick, they also have a similar animal that we're not I was leaning towards it being almost like a insurance policy where it was scaring people away from certain sites so that they wouldn't touch, vandalize or exploit and things like that. So that's what this is, just a little write-up about that. And this is why I put it up. So there's a site in Bearsville, New York, about like 20 minutes from my house. And in this site, there's 300 or more. I haven't been able to survey the entire site to a T, but everywhere you look, like there's a cairn. And this one caught my eye because we see like the portal that I was telling you guys about to the first slide here on the left. And then we see this almost like a alligator, which we don't see in New York anymore. And the portal would be him using it as a means of transportation between the dimensions, going in and out.
Wow, that's
I wish we had a backstory to this to explain why it's there.
Vincent, I knew you'd recognize that alligator head.
I can see that. Yeah, it literally looks like an alligator. That I think
everybody tells me I have pareidolia, but I'm almost positive it's not pareidolia.
Well,
I'm sorry. I hope it's not permanent.
Well, I'm seeing.
Oh, it is. It is. Once you get to a certain level, it's fucking permanent.
Right, it's a disease. Yeah, it's with me forever.
The third eye is pried open, and you just can't shut it.
But
yeah.
There is no treatment. I will say this: there's a site in West Virginia with this one mountain that has about 8 of these cairns on it.
Okay.
Very similar, very squarish, very rectilinear looking. And
this one's about 7 feet high, and there's like a base stone, and then you can see that the spirit stones, which is what I would call them, are up on that base. So it's the site is, I wish I could take you guys. It's absolutely like everywhere you go. Like when I first was brought there, I, was supposed to do some photogrammetry, and it quickly turned into me being like a kid at a candy store where I was like, ooh, 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 like I was going off the trails. Like, I'm going to go over here. I can still see you guys, but I'm going over here. And that's like, I'm like literally like boom, 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 boom. Like they were all over the place going up the mountain. It was mind boggling, really. I had only seen a few since then. It was like, this is my introduction to these Karens. So it was like quite a sight, just like I said, to see them on a flat plain is one thing, but then to see them go up the mountain, because a lot of people are saying that these are field clearings for the farmers, right? Again, we're piggybacking off of farmers when we're talking about root
Oh,
cellars.
they're not glacial erratics, huh?
That's right. The Laurentide ice sheet did it.
So did you took
Yeah.
did you took a GPS points for which one that you?
Yeah, the ones that I did take photogrammetry and pictures of, I do have, and I could go back to the site. And my goal eventually it would to be, I don't have a drone yet, but to get like, there are people that I've been to the site that have done like great shots of it, but they're private, people that are doing
Sure.
private research, and then they're sharing it only privately, so it's not anything that's
Sure.
public. But it's on state property. So to be fair, if anybody wanted to see the site in New York, they could definitely go and see it. There's a questionable figure that lives, I'm not going to say too much, but a guy that lives across the street is like a somewhat of a pit bull from what I hear. But he didn't bother me when I went, so that's fine. And this is Mishi Pishu. And, I was telling you guys before that this might have been like a Viking, but, this could be a canoe, like when we're talking about boats, you could cue the thing again. But, this is amazing because we see Mishi Pishu and then the serpents below him.
Ricardo
this is made
remembered
of
to
red
play We
ochre.
Had Boats, but you forgot to play the new legal disclaimer Steve wanted you to play. I made that note for you, but I'll give it to you now.
Oh, I
Okay.
told you I didn't make the intro for this one because I was kind of closing my eyes for.
So okay. I
I'm
was
not
just
telling
thinking of
anybody
Steve.
where the sites are.
Go ahead.
We can go to the next slide.
Okay.
Thank you. You're so cooperative.
Did you have any comments, Rick, on that slide of the images? No.
No, but I think Vince probably has a few other images up his sleeve of the same creature or same entity. I can't access anything on this phone, but yeah, it's a very good representation, Mitsubishi.
This is up near Canada, so we're talking about a wide range of, like we're talking Canada all the way down to Georgia, essentially. So it's amazing.
Yep.
Clearly the Mississippi River has a lot to do with that, maybe the knowledge being, shared.
Yeah, some people say even the Mississippi River was named after Mishi Pishu because it's
Okay.
similar phonetically.
Yeah, that makes sense. I could see that. So this is a really cool slide that I put together, and it's my interpretation and just a theory, but since we see these sites aligned to certain celestial bodies, and given our place in the universe, we're, we almost get like a bit of everybody. So my point is that we are possibly able to get data asset packages, like these large amounts of knowledge from said clusters or constellations, if you want to call it that. And so if you were inside the chamber and you're able to tap into this information, these are the special like books, like the digital books in a way that you're receiving, and as long as you're open, you're able to read that and interpret it, right? So whether it's a vibe or a feel, like a feeling that you got, or like a lot of people want to, I took psychology at one point in my life. So when we're talking about the thoughts, are they inside or are they outside, and then there could be a mix of both, right? So when you have an idea, sometimes it might not just be like you, like I said, internally, we might be getting information from the outside, meaning out there in space. So that's what this infographic is showing, is that theory. This is Mystery Hill, and I noticed that from an aerial view, GIS that it looked like a turtle, and then I looked into it a little bit more, and it looked like a medicine wheel, kind of like similar to the one in Alberta. So I started getting into, like, if it was, I reached out to the owners, and I put this anatomy of the turtle on the right-hand side because I would like to focus on the next slide too. But notice where the heart is anatomically on this turtle here. And the next slide, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's very, I wish I would have made it a little bit better. But so on the left, we see the turtle outline. And then what I did was I overlaid America's Stonehenge's maps, their own maps. After I called them, I had asked them to see if they knew that maybe they had a medicine wheel of sorts there, and they dismissed it as logging trails. And like I told you guys before, I did the homework. They did have logging back in the 1800s and early 1900s, but that's only 4 trails out of these up here in the map. So when I overlaid it, they lined up identically to the ones that we see here. So like I said, I'm leaning towards this being a medicine wheel of sorts when we're talking about what they were using the site for. And then you see I have on the right-hand side, the bottom right, where it's circled in red. These are 7 glacial erratics. And when I did the declinations for the 9 degrees for this area, they line up to the cluster of Pleiades about 4,000 years ago. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, that is amazing.
And this is my favorite site.
That is amazing
by far. Called the Guardian Chamber. I call it the Guardian Chamber. And there's a window to the side on the right-hand side that's aligned to 13 degrees north. And so when we're talking about the lunar aspect of it and the lunar standstill, it's aligned allegedly to that particular astronomical alignment. And then we see that it was in the doorway, it was at 260 west, but you have to apply the declination. People don't really do that, but I wasn't able to go to this site this year because I was already focused on another site to see if it was aligned to the summer solstice. So maybe next year I'll be able to see it. Or even the winter solstice, I can go there. This is a glacial erratic that's looking into the window to the chamber that I noticed looked either like a snake head or a dragon's head. It's massive. That's the front. Yep. You can go to that side. That's fine. This is like a side by side. So the left is the chamber. And then, so if we're looking at it from an aerial view, the window would be to the right-hand side of it. And then the next picture is the top of the snake's head looking, you can see straight into that window there. These are just side by side. And so if we're looking straight through the window from the snake's point of view, we get to this balanced stone here, which is somewhat indented on the top. So my theory is that it's not so much of a sacrificial altar, that it could have been used as to be filled with water to mirror the sky, so that whenever they were, whatever ritual they were doing, they could align to that. But it's almost like if you were to stand right behind it, it's directly to the chamber and then to the snake's head. So it's very interesting. And then the stone that I'm putting my hand on, I would classify as a Manitou stone.
So this area would have less trees, because if they're watching the sky from
right,
the reflection.
Most of these trees are fairly new. 2 trees actually fell on. You could see in the second photo much better on top of this, and the centrifugal balance is absolutely amazing because it didn't even look like it budged. I don't know what it looked like originally, obviously, but it didn't look like it budged much. And this is just an infographic of what I see at the site. AI couldn't put in so in the blue mark, this blue triangle, that's if you're looking at it from an aerial view, this chamber itself looks like a long barrow, and it's 131 feet long. And at the end of it, we see this triangular stone. So that's what this blue triangle represents. And then, so if we're going from right to left, we see that there is a standing stone that's knocked down. And then we have the serpent's head looking into the chamber, and then we have the chamber. Then we have the Manitou stone. You didn't see from the angle that we were at, but there was an aspect of it that looks like it could have been a turtle effigy at some point, and then we have this balanced altar, and then across the road, now where the road is, there's a stream that goes from this pond all the way around, and across the way there's the second largest chamber that I've seen in my 5 years of research. I'm surprised you guys aren't falling asleep.
No.
No, I'm sorry. I've got to keep it on mute because I've got kids running around. So no, I can't.
That's okay. I understand.
I'm definitely not falling asleep, but also, so
it's
no,
a lot of
answer.
data.
And then I've
all
got to
at
flip
once.
back. No, I'm with you. It's just I've got to flip back between you guys, and I've got a mute button, and I've got a PDF operator. So my silence is nothing but staying
You're
here
doing
with
great,
you. I'm loving
Jason.
it. Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm trying to be a little producer, little producer here.
Do you think there is an underground water movement under this?
Yeah, we talked about that. It's possible. I don't have, I don't have access to do a cross section and cut through the ground and make sure that that's possible. My friend does have dowsing rods, so
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, we could easily go ahead and walk around the site and see if it marks any certain area. I wouldn't doubt it. All of the chambers are near bodies of water, whether it's a pond or a lake or a river or stream or something. So all in close proximity. And so going off of the idea of like connecting these to constellations, Ophiuchus came up, and because my interpretation of the site would be that the head of that snake is detached and turned to a 90-degree angle to look through that window. So when we're talking about comparing to alleged constellations here, this one kind of jumped out at me. And when it's aligned to the Big Dipper today, but if we were to in Stellarium go back in time to this particular constellation, it would have been 4,000 to 4,500 years ago, which comes up a lot in the data. Something happened, and I know you've said it before, Ricardo, too. It's like something happened 4,000 years ago at that particular time frame. What it is, that's what we're trying to figure out.
4,000 BC.
No, we're in different. We're in different time. Yeah, and I don't. My timeline is different. My brain thinks like years. So as an American, I blame our system. Tammy took this photo, so she gets credit for it. And this is a great photo. It's privately owned now, and the guy is manipulating the site immensely. In a perfect world, I would like to go in there and tell him to stop, but because this is protected by NAGPRA, and the people are slowly catching up to the law here. It's just it's like a race, to get to the
To taking stones out of it?
What he's doing is, so you can't see from this angle, but kind of, you can see a tree that's on top of it. There was another one, and people try to do the best thing, and try to chop it down, but they don't realize that as they're doing it and the tree is falling, it's pulling up everything with the roots. And so what happened in this scenario is that it pulled up a lintel stone, and right where the front is, I think it would have been like the first or second one in. So there's a gaping hole in its roof. So the guy's an artist of sorts. So what he did was he built a driveway right up against the back, if we're looking at the photo here, the back of the chamber here, like right up against it. And then he took a glacial erotic from the driveway area and put it up in front of the stone chamber. So some people think that that's a standing stone, but it's not. That was not there originally. And like I said, I'm sure, the best intentions to fix the chamber, but I had asked, I was able to have a conversation with one of the contractors that was hired to take the trees out, landscaping. And I had asked them, to give the guy my number to make sure that he reaches out to tribal council and asks permission before he does anything to manipulate the site, because it's out of context now. So there was a, you can't see from this photo, but in the background, there's a huge spirit wall that's completely ripped and moved around. And so, people are it's their property, so they're gonna do whatever they want. And this is just like a disclaimer to the public to remind them that they do have rights, and that, if they want to be like, what Vince is doing, and what I do all the time too, and you guys, you're allowed to put a DOE out, and you're allowed to ask questions because it's the law. And whether they follow through with it or not, that's their fault. Like, if you were just to keep being persistent like you are, Vince, with Cahokia, you are going to get an answer whether it's the one you want or not. That's to be determined, right? But I would urge anyone that is passionate about protecting these sites to do your part, and don't be afraid to speak up, and put a letter out or put an email out, about these sites, and what you're, like, oh yeah, like, you have questions and they have to be responsible to answer them. Like I said, whether they do that or not, that's
Right. It's preservation, and that's important.
right.
And like, we can all be the best stewards that we can while we're here. So I think that you're doing a great job in
Thank you.
in preserving
Yeah.
it.
Agreed, and I appreciate you put that slide in there because it's true. Everyone, needs to know that our story of our past is all of ours. We all have a right
Right.
to it.
And this slide focuses on some bullet points of like why they were passed off as fruit sellers. We kind of highlighted a few of them. One being the myth of uninhabited wilderness, so that the colonists could just come in with a strong political and legal incentive to minimize the historical footprints of the sophisticated ancient or indigenous populations to simplify land claims and manifest destiny. And the other is convenience of reuse. Obviously, that matters when we're talking about adaptive reuse, which I've highlighted in most of my interviews so far, and even the palimpsest aspect of it. You're going to use what's there, that's already, you don't have to do all the hard work, it's already done. And then the academic part would be the mainstream archaeology heavily resists anomalies in quotes, because acknowledging a pre-colonial or global megalithic tradition requires a rewriting of hundreds of foundational textbooks and redating. I don't want to cut myself off, but we rewrite history all the time. So if it wasn't a moral or personal gain here, I don't see it as anything else at this point in my research. People are obviously upset because their story is not being told first, or they don't want anybody else to be a part of it. They want to be biased and racist about it. So that is a huge factor that I should have put in here, because it matters. Institutions and are
Don't
there
forget
for
ego.
positive. I would like to say positive, but the people are the ones that make it, right? So they're the things that are moving it. But clearly, there's a lot of flaws.
Ego, like Rick said, and also sometimes it's just laziness, because it requires rewriting, it requires documenting, it requires, sometimes it's just laziness, because it's too
But a
much
part of that
trouble.
would have been a racist, foundation, because you if you were passionate about what you're doing, it wouldn't be like a job. You wouldn't have to worry about rewriting it like that, right?
Sure. This,
They're intentionally leaving people out. They're actively practicing erasure. So that's what I fight, all the time.
that's the consequence.
Yes.
And then we just literally just kind of went through all this, but when we're talking about triggers and the safeguards and whatnot, so the trigger would be acknowledging the ancient indigenous origin. It would immediately force the compliance with NAGPRA, and I've dealt with this firsthand with certain people, like even private owners. I don't know why they build this up to be such a big deal, because NAGPRA and even tribal council are not bad people, and they're not like really a headache. And this is what they like. They build all these like blocks before they even get to that like the hello part, and then they don't even go through it. So they just rather be shady in a way. And it's like, I don't want to talk to these people. They're probably gonna tell me not to do this, and which is not like 90% of the case. And they're gonna allow you to live your life the way that you've been living. They just want to be there to document said sites because it matters to them. So I think, like I said, people build up this fantasy of it being so much worse than what it's going to be.
But just to clarify, do indigenous peoples claim these structures to be theirs, or just on their grounds? Because there's a
So
difference being on their ground and being theirs.
this is the issue that we have, because when we talk about like land claims, it's technically no longer their land, right? So even like with, I can give you an example. Black Rock in my area, which I steward now, has always been on the New York State Museum repatriation list. But since the state owns it and they're not tribal, they can't put that application in. So therefore, it's never going to be repatriated because the tribe doesn't own that land. And the way that they have the law set up, this is a weird loophole that we're looking at. Then it will never be like, and it's so weird. It's like, why are you teasing them and putting it on the list? And you know damn well that they're not going to be able to ever apply to have it reinterred, because you set up this law saying that if they don't own the land, they can't. Right. So this is the situation that we have with the chambers, because a lot of them are on private property, not just state property. And clearly we have people that are, that don't care, and they don't want these people around, and like they're going to be bothering them about telling them what to do with their land, and they can no longer be they can't have their lifestyle the way that they wanted to, because they have these people breathing down their neck. That's not the case. They just, like I said, they just want to be there to document it, and then you can go on with your life. Like, that's basically it. I really wish that the public would see it as such and not be so shady about it. And part of it is because they're misinformed. They don't know how Section 106 works. They just, I think NAGPRA has a horrible connotation added to it, especially since the 90s, since it started. And people have just kind of run with that. And they don't, I see it as more of like a racist than anything, because if they knew, like I just explained to you guys very simply, they knew that it wasn't that big of a deal, then they probably wouldn't be like this, right? Everybody would, both sides would be happy, it would be documented, the landowner can move on with their life, and then it wouldn't be a big deal. But since they put up that wall and those fears, if you want to call it that, then it drags it on forever, and then we lose sites forever.
I think they're both responsible, both on the side of the native and both on the side of the government.
Right. And we've talked about this too. So they piggyback off of us because they don't want any problems with our government. And I wholeheartedly understand that. And I have no problem being a middleman for them and going undercover and doing certain, things that they had asked me to do. But it would be nice if they backed us up, right? And like, had our backs about certain things. But that's obviously not going to happen, because they've been conditioned to be afraid of the way that the government would react to them being like, hey, like they do it to us. Like, and we're the ones, we're the ones putting out the DOEs and stuff, and they do it to us. So you can imagine that politically it's going to be an issue with them, because like they built, for the last 300 years, we can say comfortably that they've tried to build this safeguard with them about how they wouldn't lose any more rights and lose any more land. They're just starting to get back some of their land. So it's a very delicate process that is obviously going to take a long time, unfortunately, to get to where we want to be. But we're getting there. We're getting there. I see that it's not, we're not digressing, so that's a plus. So this is like another, like an offshoot to some of the theories that I had about like using not necessarily drugs, but like even if we were talking about like sage in general, like to heighten your awareness when you're inside the chambers, and what material, even in Egypt, like we're talking about certain drugs that would help synthesize DMT in general and activate someone's psychological conditions to the experience that they're having.
Yeah, we have a. You heard of Jason? Help me. Voight. I can only remember the second name. Voight. What is his name?
What? John Voight, the actor?
No,
What?
no.
Voight? I don't.
No, the researcher of the DMT from Egypt that we interviewed.
Gosh, sorry, bro.
Is Voight. I can't remember his first name. very nice fellow, and he has one or two books on this about the acacia and the Egypt and the use of DMT, and so I can send you the link if you're interested in that. Get some more data.
Oh yeah,
Oh, sorry.
that's okay.
Aaron Voigt. Aaron Voigt. I got it. Aaron Voigt. It took me a while, but I got there. It's his name.
Yeah, okay, I know who you're talking about. Right.
Yeah. I'm
Nice.
sorry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry for forgetting his name, but Aaron Voigt.
Nicotina rustica.
Yeah. So obviously, in this particular subject, we're talking about tobacco and how they were using it to get to certain, different levels of psycho experiences. So
Yep.
obviously, this is still all new theories, and it's worth looking into because we see them using it even today.
Oh, agreed. I call it the nicotine gate. I mean, it's real and it's there.
Well, the human body has more receptors for nicotine than for any other substance.
Interesting. I wonder if because they were using it for so long that it obviously imprinted that way, it became like a part
Well,
of them.
yeah, obviously it's some kind of an evolutionary trait, but
Yeah, yeah.
whether how long ago, I mean, if we truly evolved in the old world and they didn't have tobacco there, how did that happen? Just saying.
About the endocannabinoid system in hemp.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
That's what I was going to ask. I thought that one was bigger than the sensors for nicotine.
well, it does more to your whole system, right? I mean, that's why in early America, when everybody was, farming hemp for paper and all that shit, right? Well, you're also feeding the stalks to your cattle, right? So it's getting in the food system just
Right.
holistically, right? So you were naturally, it's just interesting. Where did that come from? Was that biologically, or is that, me over here? I see design in these type things. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, they're both interesting systems to be present and be so useful and helpful to us.
But we are not encouraging anybody to smoke.
And
There's
to
No.
show up in
otherwise.
Egyptian mummies
No,
and stuff.
note nicotine pouches if available. If you're in the U.S., they're not available yet. But sorry, they're sending me birthday pouches, so I had to mention them. Appreciate
There
you,
you go.
Kyle.
There's your birthday song.
They're all natural. They are. They're all
Yeah.
natural, and they use oats. That's why they call them note. It's nicotine and oats, and they're biodegradable, and they beat like all the shit that's available here in America. But they release in America, and now they've hit some red tape, and they made them stop selling here. So, but they're keeping me in free samples. So, but nicotine is, I think it's important. I'm not going to encourage anybody to smoke either, but I think it's important. It kills ticks, guys. We all know how bad ticks are right now. Keep nicotine in your system, and the ticks die when they bite you.
He's not lying. But the other
Right.
thing about it is, I grew up in Indiana, and my grandfather specifically, would always give a little bit of tobacco to the cow if it was sick, or to the horse if it had worms, or the dog if he had worms.
Yes.
And nicotine is an anti-parasitic very strongly.
Yeah.
I was told that
Interesting.
that's in fact where plug tobacco came from. Remember, I used to be in plugs or like big flat sheets. They said
That's
somebody
correct.
told me that that's where it came from. Was they'd make those big sheets to give to the cows and the horses and stuff.
Sorry, guys, that's on my end. I didn't do it.
Are
They're
you
not coming for
sure?
me. I've been
That's
sitting
what I
here the whole
mean. Is that,
time. You're
man.
my witness.
She's enlightening them. Here they come.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, she's talking about the pineal gland. Yeah, that's for you. All right, we'll bail you
Yeah,
out.
so this is like if they, clearly use the chambers in a dark space, and when we talk about Sardinia and how they were using it for rites of passages for the young men, and they were deprived of their senses, including sight, and being in dark places for a few days and nights and things like that, what it would do to your brain, right? So it's very interesting. The DMT, I didn't think that I was going to go down this route, but obviously I'm trying to look at it from all different angles on how they were, humans were using these chambers. And this is just like a really cool infographic as not so much smoking it, but using it more of like a smudging aspect, like in a bowl nearby.
Like
And then
incense,
that,
basically.
yeah, that would obviously invoke hypoxia because you're lowering your oxygen levels and whatnot. So it's a theory.
I'm on mute. Sorry, I have to flip back. But I like that. Yeah, to get to the visionary trance state. I like how you put it all, everything we were just talking about, basically, into an infographic.
Yeah.
It's nice. Yeah.
Just don't try it at home in case the hypoxia gets too serious.
We're getting towards the end, so I'm sure you guys are okay with that. But and then when we get to like the drones and stuff, where because of the NDA, I won't be able to. I'm not going to show that because this is the total revamp of Project Aurora that I did, which is obviously different than what I did in the interview with Dave. It's like literally 180.
Yeah.
This is just
and Steve told you to shut your mouth, huh?
Yes. But to benefit, it's not to be selfish, but for my own good, my own benefit,
yes. No.
but not just for my benefit. It's for everybody, but
Steve's
for
looking out for you. Yeah.
Right. And I appreciate that. And like you said, and to be fair, when we're talking about putting information out to the public, there's laws and rules. So once you put an idea out there, if you were to patent it, you have about I don't know, there's literally no time, and I don't have the finances to get a patent to do, that in order. So it would be it would be a free for all.
Right. And it is,
I mean, there's loopholes in that too,
property.
because you can classify it under a certain name, and then nobody would be able to patent it. But then it's then you can't even patent it. You're screwed.
I've got your messages that you sent to me describing it all, so I'll verify that it's all from you. We can timestamp it. We've got the screenshots. Damn it! It's hers.
The law doesn't care about that part though. But
I know, but I do. I can go beat some people's ass. They start building your drone before we get grants to get it happening for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason. I keep expecting in a few weeks the big news. Jason Huffman, a man from Alabama, just discovered the new method.
You took her idea. Yeah, that's my role at the Institute.
Then what? Then we lose you. We don't have you on the team anymore. We gotta use that money for the patent to bail you out.
No, you just do it in public. You don't go in their house or anything. And police have told me, they're like, man, if you're going to jump somebody, do it in McDonald's parking lot, because then it's a him versus him say so. And when we show up, we don't give a shit. I was like, cool, good to know.
So this slide is about my goal was to show from east to west, and you're going to go into the haplogroup X theories and things like that. Particularly the X that came here that turned into haplogroup X2A, and the fact that in order for that to be created, they had to have mated with a being that was already here. And this is where I was telling you guys about the two phantom DNAs that they haven't been able to figure out yet, or haven't released to the public. Genetics have obviously come a long way. And what they release is, we're just getting we think it's new.
Are the two phantoms mitochondrial or
yes
nuclear?
And so with X2A or X2, because when we're talking about where X came from, it would be the Near East. That would be the mother lineage, and then from there she had two daughters, which are the X2, and the one did stay behind, and then there's one that literally disappeared, but then ironically, we see it appear in Ojibwe blood, which, when we're talking about geographic settings, the Ojibwe came from the New York area, and then it went back to the Midwest. And so that arrived here in our area anywhere between 15,000 plus years ago. And so, like I've been saying to you guys before, that, stones and blood don't lie when we really start digging into this data. And so this is really, really important, because not to debunk Kennewick Man or such, or, the theories and they are theories, like we said before, whether they're debunked or not, they're still theories that are being produced as fact. And so when we're talking about, that they only came from Beringia, that's not true. There's been multiple migrations from every angle that you can look at. Any open space that there was, they were coming through. People are opportunistic. So my point is that they came from Europe through, probably island hopping into Greenland, and then from Canada down. And this is just like my theory that piggybacks off of a lot of, even in Ireland and Leitrim, I believe that's how you say it. There's documentations from the little kids that had a school experiment to go and ask their elders in the town where their sweat lodges came from, and most of the kids came back to tell the teacher that their grandparents told them that their grandparents said that, and then from there, right, that the Vikings were inspired by the Native Americans. So when we see, the sweat lodge concept, obviously people all over the world have used them, right? But to particularly say that the Vikings were inspired by Native Americans was what was piquing my interest. And then this is what proves that we've probably always had contact. And when we're talking about colonization and erasure, this is the goal, that their end goal, Rue, was to destroy that knowledge that there was already a relationship going on, and that they weren't the bee's knees. Like, it wasn't all about them coming when Columbus got here.
Oh, you were saying he wasn't the first?
No.
Oh my God.
And I would go as far as to say, if he didn't have Masonic connections, he would have never gotten that map to find a way to get here. But that's just a theory. And I just kind of so with Kennewick Man, it's interesting because, like I said, he's 9,000 years old. So when we're talking about where it landed here, then you're seeing clearly that there's a migration, west towards Washington State, which is where it was. And that's 4,000 years later, if we're going to lowball that 15,000 year timeline. So they were already here, like I said, prior to Kennewick Man on the East Coast.
Well, they are being much more open to accept the Solutrean hypothesis, which is
at this point they kind of they're beaten over the head with so much proof that you can't. My first thing to anybody would be, Lansox Meadows and Lansox Moor, when they were trying to say like there were no Vikings here. So now that and then people are so ridiculously argumentative when we get to that aspect, because they're like, oh, well, that's up in Canada. It's like, dude, that if we're talking, we're going to draw a line. They crossed the line. They came into America. That's fair game. And then from there, they easily could have used any water highway they wanted to get to New York or to get further into Ohio, which is where we see certain, the Kensington Ruin Stone. And you guys know Scott Walter did extensive research on that and totally blew everybody out of the water with his analysis. And he did go public with it, and he's still going public, with the back and forth debating of, oh, you're wrong. This is incorrect. Obviously not.
They are actually the ones that call him into it.
Right. And no, he could have easily said no, because he's already done this, but this is how passionate he is about it. And I know Scott from when I was way younger, and I've seen him grow in the limelight, if you were to say it like that. So he's been habitually, he never changed his story when it came to Oleg and his relationship with that owner, the original owner.
Yeah,
and those
did
little
say yes.
Those marks, those root marks, those young root marks that he found on him were a huge indication that stone was way older than what everybody was claiming it to be. Just alone, not even just the analysis.
Well, that's exactly what the Minnesota geologist Winchell said in 1903. And when Scott went and looked through Winchell's papers, he found those exact words that Scott had written independently.
Right.
So.
Right. It was just modern. Yeah, he just modernized it.
Yeah. So the only thing that he did that Winchell had not done was he did take a small core sample and examine it very carefully. out of the
Right,
Kensington
and
Runestone.
he
I'm
did
guessing.
do the he did see the wear marks from the grave, the grooves, so that matters.
Yeah, the stains. Yeah,
It
yeah.
is
I have
about
no
that
doubt
stone.
that the Kensington Runestone is indeed that old, and I also believe that they had a lot of let's call it commercial intercourse with North American natives.
Right. Well, that tablet is
I
obviously
mean,
a good indication that they were here because they had the monks to write. They had scribes that like they're like
yes,
Facebook
they had
today, where
scribes,
like they were
right?
monitoring every move they made, and they were very specific with how many people were there, where how many the distance they had traveled, when they were talking about like the whole
Right.
situation.
Yeah,
So
it's a
yeah,
land
I
claim. There's no
100%.
doubt in my mind that it is at least related to a land claim, and they were surveying the land that they were claiming.
Right.
But anyway, so 1362. Let's go back to 13,000 years ago when some of these things may have been made, and that 10,000-year-old piece of Icelandic obsidian. Do you think that is the real age? Because I know I'm going back to my very first question. Are they
I
really
don't
that old?
I don't have, I can't read that archaeological report. I wish I had it on me. I wish that I could get my friend who's co-hosting this event is very friendly with
Well,
Phil, which
let me
is
put
the
it this
guy that
way.
found
You're
it.
allowed to speculate. On this show, you are allowed to speculate.
Well, I'm just going by what the data, like what I found and what I see and stuff for the most part. Obviously, I'm interjecting most of the time my theories, and I do like disclaim that before I even go further. But my friend Renee knows Phil pretty well. He's just not. He's had a rough time. Even after going public with this artifact that I wouldn't say like his life was in danger or anything. I don't want to put him on the spot, but it caused a massive controversy in just like this community alone, which is why I don't really associate with most people in this community, the chamber community. They get very nasty, and even like the sides that are against the chamber, So I just for my safety, I just rather just stay away from most of these people. That's why the event is like totally left field for me, because I know that I'm putting myself out there and I am going to be a public target at this point after I
Well,
do
let me know
my
if anybody from
presentation.
near us shows up for your event.
Oh, they'll be there. They offered to be at a table. I can't get into, here we go. I'm just gonna say NDA. I'm not allowed.
Yeah, okay, I get it. Um, Nera in the past was a wonderful organization, but they've changed their view of
I don't think it's
controversial
that. It's
stuff.
like we were talking about before. I don't think it's the foundational institute. It's the people, and that's they're a problem. And
Yeah,
obviously, with
yeah, and
Well,
they're the niche is in trouble in all respects. There used to be one Ohio called MES, Midwest Epigraphic Society, and they've all but folded. Maybe they have folded, but I hate to see them all go away.
yeah, I'm not against Nira. They watch my work closely, and they make it known. They reach out to me all the time and ask me to consult them. So I'm very aware that they, plus I go public with my stuff mostly on Facebook, but I haven't written like any. I haven't been able to write any articles yet and publicize them and for peer review or anything. It will be happening very, very soon. But they're involved with what I'm doing. I'm aware of that.
well,
Well, and they've been aware of all the research with regard to the
Right.
chambers for the last 45, 50 years, give or take. But
According to
yet
them, though, they don't have the maps, though. So that's what they were kind of like asking me to do is map out New York, which it's physically impossible at this point unless you can dedicate
mm,
every second of your life to this, which I can't,
yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah, although I believe that 90 possibly even 95% of academic historians and archaeologists will immediately say, don't need to look at that because they are just modern structures. Uh, I do think that if you ask most of them, they have no knowledge.
Right, and that's the
Because
problem because
they are taught
they're just going off of that.
there are no stone structures in America. That's ridiculous. They don't exist. Right? And those that are
Yeah.
just glacial erratics that people give too much importance and see things in them.
John
And I think-
Wesley Powell said the natives never built in stone. So that's the
Exactly.
way it is.
Exactly.
Oh my
And
God, there's still people here in New York that truly wholeheartedly believe that, and it's so irritating. Like, I don't want to get like personal about it because I try not to let it bother me, but then we can just like go from there and say like they never had writing or they never did this. Like, we're talking about birch bark for the most part. That's a organic material that's no longer with us unless it was in a in a scroll in a tight area where it was preserved. Even then, very fragile state at this point if we were to find it, and at the end of the day, in a very closed circle of people, shamans in particular, that are the knowledge keepers for this, that will not let any outsiders in this group. So to say that there are none, just because they haven't seen it, that's in fact, that's not true. I can definitely say that because I can tell you that firsthand accounts have seen people that are members to these, medicine, schools, if you were to call them that, right? That claim that they have them. So I don't think they would be lying about it, right? So when we're talking about, certain things, that's really important to remember that you can't just at face value take something and then run with it because you have a title over your name.
Yeah, that they would say, oh, if writing in that kind of materials, it's not very logical because it degrades and goes
Which
away.
is just a view of like how they are, right? Because how small-minded
No,
are you to say
they
that?
were constantly, each time it started degrading, they made another one. So
Right.
either something happened that they stopped making them and then lost the knowledge, even how to create them, or of the
I don't think they
language
did because
itself.
these are like when we talk
Or-
about Masonic lodges, these are
or,
literally
yeah.
like mirrors to that. Like not, and I'm not like trying to compare them because they're completely different, but they're very very similar to like I'm an Eastern Star. You guys know this.
They are.
They're very very similar to that. And it's not hidden history,
Sure.
and it's not these are not secret societies. They're just elite societies that require respect to the information so that it's not destroyed. These are reasons,
Yeah,
and you would call
that's-
them a classic gatekeeper, right?
That's
in a
so we're
nice
saying,
way.
or they kept doing it, but they stopped showing that they were doing it.
Right. Well, it would have been even people in their tribe, not something that was like public.
Public,
Knowledge.
exactly.
Oh, we can't show that part. We can't. I think we're pretty much done with the slideshow. Yeah.
Jason,
Sorry, I almost gave it
You're
away.
gonna get in trouble, Jason. Steve's
Jason.
watching. The Cardinals watching.
Sorry, Steve. Sorry, I didn't sign the NDA yet, but I won't. I won't violate it. That's for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I just got in. Way to kick me out.
Right. Steve, you don't want Steve mad. It's
Well,
better than Sarah though. Sarah throws flip-flops, and those things are nasty.
you
when they
didn't
slap
sign
you in
the
face.
you didn't sign the NDA because we know too much about your life.
Yeah, I know.
Right? Nothing to hide.
No,
I meant on her
the
project.
opposite. The opposite.
I signed the generalized NDA. I just didn't
Oh,
sign
you got
one
dirt
on
on Jason? No.
Yeah, he does. He does. I give it to everybody that I want to trust me. It's just easier that way. I'll tell you a story one time in private and not here on podcasting. But I had a buddy that I found out was recording me, in his place. Like I'd go over there to stay, and he's involved in all kinds of, questionable activities. So I get why he'd videotape people in their house, but I figured he'd turn.
You
it off
visit
for me.
Rick?
No, I figured he'd turn it off for me, right? And I found out one night he didn't. And yeah, I'll tell you how you handle things like that. But the point is, I know how to get people to trust me. So yeah, Ricardo's got the dirt straight off. Remind me what the dirt is later, Ricardo. So,
Well, I'm surprised you
Don't
guys
worry,
made it
I
through this whole
will.
slideshow. That's really cool. I'm happy we got it over with.
I'm
Even I
glad
was starting to
I'm
doze
glad we
out.
got
I
through it
had like
too.
no
That's
sleep
what
yesterday.
I wasn't dozing
Yeah.
out.
No, it's been
You did
fun.
a great job. I really
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Vince.
It's very interesting.
And
Yeah,
by
I'm
doing it
learning.
and getting all the way through it, you then will figure out on your own. You'll go, hey, I want to do this or not have that in there. You know, it's just a growth process.
Right.
So thank you very much.
And
for
I'm sure
coming
I'm
and doing
sure
it.
that anything that you need in terms of doing what you need to do, I think Vince it will be a great help because he.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit last night to like put it together like my top 5, which was
Yeah.
I was making jokes with him. I was like, really, just 5? But I'll do is I'll put like a little slideshow together for him, and then we can go from there. Either I'll narrate it or he'll narrate it. So we'll work together with that.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. I'm looking forward to that.
I'll narrate
Yeah.
it. What's this? You're just cutting out the. I'm the official
Well, you're not a
narrator. That's the only job
member.
I've got
Are
right
you
now.
a member? Vince, is he a
Yeah.
member
Of what?
of the Mounds Project?
Yeah. I mean, well.
Oh,
I mean,
there's.
we're
Oh,
just-
okay.
we're-
Never
well, it's
mind
just
then.
you and I
Never
and-
mind. My bad. I thought you were talking about institute projects.
As far
I
as
They
didn't mean to
are.
step on your toes there, Vincent.
But
They are
They
institute
are.
projects.
But no, it's just us two in the indigenous mound research group. So yeah. So
Yeah, get on
anyway,
board, Jason. Sign up.
Yeah, just send me the script. You know, I've got all the equipment right here. That's what Sarah does now. She just, hey, I gotta have a voiceover, you know, and here it comes. So I mean,
You're
I'll
more
take
than
it.
welcome to have me on with and without. I'll do like the same thing. Like I'll put up a slideshow or I'll get something together.
Absolutely.
You're more than welcome to narrate it. I welcome that
Absolutely.
because obviously I'm learning still, and I'm learning, how to present. So I appreciate it.
Yeah,
have to
it's
be
just my
careful
fun
'cause-
way of saying you're in the institute now, and that's one of the things I do in the institute is throw me the legal disclaimers and shit, and I read them for you and record them, and that's all.
These last 2 guests are still in therapy, so be careful.
They didn't make it through. What is it? The landscape where the shaman goes. No, the landscape which drives men insane is the landscape in which the shaman goes to work. Right.
There you go.
Famous quote. You're all going?
so happy birthday, Jason, again.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Yeah.
What's up,
I
Harper? Y'all be
appreciate it.
careful.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing your birthday on this
Not at all.
presentation.
Oh,
Right.
thank you. I mean, look, I don't make a big deal of my birthday around my house, I mean, but whatever.
No, but we're
Thank
saying
you
it's
very
your
much
special
for
day,
saying
and I'm sure you
birthday.
would have liked to probably
But at the end of the
sleep or
day,
do
we're
something
trying to do
else.
something here, and we're trying to do something with the institute, and we've got things set. And thank you for coming in and continuing to. What am I trying to say? We're all here to help each other, right? And to be of service is a great way to spend the birthday, if you ask me. So
Aw,
So help us
It's been
out
fun.
and take us off the air.
yep. We're getting
That's
up to
you,
3
boss.
hours here.
Luigi,
Good night.
good night, everybody.
Night. Bye, Eric. Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you, everybody.
good night, all.
Good night.
Good night, guys.